Necromancer of the Shadows Chapter 140 Chapter 1 What do you want to sacrifice? So that's how I am going to die in this life, Evan said, while lying on the floor of a dark hall. Blood continued to flow out from his back. There was a claw mark on his back and his flesh was completely torn. Whoever caused this injury was very powerful because even his bones were visible from the wound. His head was also bleeding. From the injury of his head it was clear that something very hard hit his head, as even the bone of his skull was fractured. Since the day I opened my eyes in this world I knew that my life will be pathetic. I thought I will die at the hands of some powerful beast or hunter. I even thought I will just kill myself for not being able to improve my own power, but I never thought I will die from blood loss, Evan mumbled as his voice started to fade away and darkness started to engulf his entire vision. I hope in my next life I will be able to enjoy a normal life, and I absolutely don't want to be born with a unique physique, Evan said before the darkness engulfed him completely. But just as darkness engulfed him completely he heard a cold voice. What do you want to sacrifice? Evan, whose vision was engulfed by darkness, heard the cold voice and his eyes opened a little, gaining a little clarity, but he still can't move his head, much less look around himself to search for the person who just spoke to him. Who are you? Evan asked in a weak voice. What do you want to sacrifice? But no one answered his question and he heard the same voice again. Is this the voice of a devil who is here to collect my soul as a sacrifice after I die? Evan thought when he heard the word sacrifice. What do you want to sacrifice? Evan heard the same voice again asking him what he wants to sacrifice. Evan was barely able to think what is going on since he lost too much blood, and his mind was not working properly after the recent events. What will I get after sacrificing something? Evan asked a different question this time, and to his surprise, he received an answer this time. You can get anything as long as the thing you sacrifice holds enough value, the voice replied in the same cold tone. I can get anything. This is the same line every devil says before he asks someone to sacrifice their soul. Evan thought after hearing that he can ask for anything. There is no way I am going to sacrifice my soul to a devil. Even though my life is full of shit, I still don't want to become a slave of a devil by sacrificing my soul. But then what should I sacrifice? Although he is a devil, since it is asking me to sacrifice something, it means it can't do anything to me if I don't sacrifice my soul, Evan thought while his vision started to turn dark again. The effects of blood loss started to show again, and Evan knew that if he closed his eyes he will not be able to open them again. So he started to think what he can sacrifice to heal himself and get out from here alive. Then Evan remembered why he is in this situation. All of this is happening because he possessed something that restricted him from improving his power. Although I don't know if this thing has enough value to heal my injuries, I am not going to lose anything by sacrificing this shit. On the other hand, it will just benefit me, since even if I die after sacrificing it, I will be assured that this thing will not come with me to next life, Evan thought, and finally decided what he is going to sacrifice. I want to sacrifice my shadow physique, Evan said in a weak voice, but he didn't receive any reply. Instead, a black smoke came near him and covered his entire body. After 10 seconds the black smoke disappeared and he heard the cold voice again. What do you want in exchange for your physique? Heal all of my injuries and give me some cause. Although Evan just wanted to heal his injuries, he still asked for some cause. If the voice refused to give him cause, he will back away, but if the voice agreed to give him cause, he will be able to improve his power, because the physique that was restricting him to increase his power will be gone by this sacrifice, and he will be able to use cause to improve his power. Evan waited for some time and the cold voice finally replied, your physique holds enough value for this exchange. Beginning sacrificing ritual. Suddenly the entire hall glowed in dark red color, and Evan, who was almost about to pass out, heard the cold voice again. You can't sacrifice your physique in your current condition. You will die if you sacrifice your physique without healing your body, so I am going to heal you first to complete the sacrifice, but because I am healing you first without getting anything, you will receive only 50% cause that I was going to give you before. Evan agreed without hesitation, since he never expected to receive any cause from the beginning. Suddenly the black smoke engulfed his body again and he found his body started to heal rapidly, and in just 5 minutes he was completely healed. Evan checked his back and found that it was completely healed. Even his fractured head was completely healed. There were no more injuries on his body. Now sacrificing your physique. Evan heard the cold voice again and the black smoke engulfed him again. But this time, instead of feeling refreshed like last time, Evan felt pain like never before. A pain-filled scream came from Evan's mouth as he felt his body is being torn apart by something, but unknown to Evan. By sacrificing his physique, he finally awakened something inside him that was being surpassed by his physique for years. Even the person who made the exchange with Evan didn't know that by taking Evan's physique he awakened something that was almost forgotten in history. 12 hours ago, ring ring inside a small room, a boy was sleeping when suddenly he heard his phone rang. He picked up the phone and heard the voice of another boy. Evan, what are you doing today? Our group is going for a raid inside a dungeon. Do you want to come with us, Mike? One of Evan's classmates asked him. I have to go somewhere today. You guys can go by yourselves, Evan replied and cut the call without waiting for Mike's reply. After cutting the call, Evan gritted his teeth and said, this bastard always trying to humiliate me by asking if I want to go into the dungeon with them. He knew that I can't increase my power with the help of those cores. Evan tried to calm down his mind and stood up. Evan looked around 18 years old. His hair and eyes are completely dark black and his skin is pale white, completely opposite to his hair and eye color. He is around 180 centimeters tall and looks really handsome while considering his power level. Evan tried to forget about the call he just received and focused on the thing that he is going to do today. Evan prepared a simple breakfast for himself and while eating looked at his status panel. Name, Evan. Rank, F. Strength, F. Agility, F. Mana, F. Stamina, F+ Intelligence, F. Luck, E+ Charm, D. Skill: Shadow Walk. Physique: Shadow Physique. Title: Job: None. Evan shook his head while looking at his status panel. Only his charm and luck are above the rank F. I should just do what I can do and wait for an opportunity to get some shadow cores to improve my rank. After all, I can only use shadow cores to improve my rank, unlike others who can improve their rank by using any type of cores, Evan said with a bitter tone and looked at his status panel that was showing his details. His gaze stopped on the shadow physique for a second, then he closed the status panel. After eating breakfast, Evan packed his backpack and after confirming that he didn't forget anything, he started to walk towards the door of the room. I hope everything will be fine and I will be able to get at least one shadow core today, Evan said and left the room. Damn, how can I oversleep on the first day of my job? I got this job after so many hardships. I really don't want to arrive late on my first day, Ray, a young man said, while running like his life depends on it. While running, Ray bumped into a man. Sorry, Ray apologized without stopping. Young people doesn't have any manners these days, the man said when he saw Ray didn't apologize properly, but Ray couldn't care less about it when he is already late on the first day of his job. But Ray stopped when he arrived at the main road because the traffic signal was red. Why the hell, whenever I come here I found this signal red, Evan shouted in his mind. After 1 minute the signal turned green and Ray once again started to run. Horn. But when Ray reached the middle of the road he heard the sound of a car horn, and when he looked towards the sound he saw a car coming towards him at high speed, and before he can think anything else the high-speed car hit him. Ray didn't feel anything when the car hit him. He found himself lying on the ground and saw how the car didn't stop even after hitting him, and soon his vision started to turn red. Ray tried to lift his hand but he didn't feel anything. What is going on? Why I can't feel my body, Ray thought while his vision turned completely red. Everything happened too fast that Ray didn't understand just what is going on, but he started to panic when he wasn't able to feel his body. Someone call the ambulance fast. Ray heard the voice of a man. Ambulance will arrive in 5 minutes. Don't close your eyes. Ray heard the voice of the same man again, but for some reason, his vision started to turn blurry. When Ray's vision turned blurry he started to understand what happened. I know my luck is shit, but seriously, I am going to die just after getting a job, Ray thought while his vision turned completely dark. Damn, I should have stayed home and played games. This was Ray's last thought before darkness engulfed him. Ray opened his eyes and saw a familiar but at the same time unfamiliar ceiling of a room. Ray was lying on a bed in a small room. This is a hospital, Ray thought while looking around the room. But for some reason, Ray found this room familiar, but he was sure he never saw this room before. Ray tried to lift his hand and was surprised because he didn't feel any pain. He tried to stand up and was able to stood up very easily. How the hell, my body is completely fine after that accident, Ray shouted when he saw his body was completely fine, but soon he felt something is wrong. He looked around the room and saw a mirror not so far away from him. Ray came before the mirror and his eyes opened wide when he saw his reflection inside the mirror. What the hell is going on? Ray said while looking at himself in a mirror. Suddenly Ray felt a splitting headache and he dropped to the ground while clutching his head. Soon strange memories started to appear inside his head. Ray screamed because of the pain. He continued to feel the pain for the next 5 minutes and he gained many foreign memories. Evan, Ray said after the pain disappeared. He was drenched in sweat and was lying on the ground. Ray stood up after he finally understood what happened. He looked at the mirror once again. I still can't believe I transmigrated to a different world and a world where you can even use magic, Evan said. When he finally understood that he is transmigrated to another world where people can use various skills by the help of mana. Can I also use magic? Ray, who transmigrated inside the body of Evan, wondered as he checked the memories that he just received, but his face turned ugly when he fully checked the memories of Evan. The world Ray transmigrated is called Rara World and there are many people who awaken special powers. Most of the people awaken their power before turning 16 years old. Evan also awakened his power when he was 14 years old and joined Hunter Academy to train himself and learn more about superpowers. Evan was an orphan who used to live in an orphanage, but whoever awakened their power can join the Hunter Academy for free, so Evan was able to join the Hunter Academy even though he was an orphan. Evan was very happy when he awakened his power because not only he awakened his power, he also had a physique called Shadow Physique. He awakened a skill called Shadow Walk that allows him to turn himself into a shadow and walk freely unhindered by anything. As long as he can provide mana, he can keep his shadow form activated. When Evan joined the academy, he learned how to improve his power. To improve your power, you have to use cores of the monsters. You can get cored by killing monsters inside the dungeons. Cores are very rare and very few monsters drop a core after you defeat it. If you defeat a fire-type monster, you will receive a fire-type core, and if you defeat a water-type monster, you can get a water-type core. But it didn't matter much which type of core you get because you can improve your power by absorbing any type of core. Usually you can absorb only 30% energy of a core, and the rest of the energy disappears in the surrounding environment while absorbing the core. But if you have a fire-type skill and you absorb a fire-type core, you can absorb around 50% of its entire energy. But when Evan tried to absorb the energy from a cow for the first time, he wasn't able to absorb it. For some reason his body rejected all energy that he absorbed from the core. At first Evan just thought maybe that core was damaged or something, but soon he found out for some reason his body rejects all energy from the cores. At first, Evan didn't understand why he can't absorb the energy from the core, but then he remembered his physique. Since the name of his physique was Shadow Physique, he used his all-saved money to buy a shadow core and tried to absorb it, and to his surprise, his body didn't reject the energy this time and absorbed it greedily. After finding this, Evan thought about hunting shadow-type monsters to get some cores and improve his power. But the lowest rank dungeon where you can find shadow-type monsters are at least rank D, and Evan is only an F rank hunter, so even if he wanted he can't get shadow-type core. He was an orphan, so he can't purchase shadow cores by using money, so even after joining the Hunter Academy Evan wasn't able to improve his power. My new life is already ended even before it started, Ray said after digesting every memory of Evan. Evan came out of his room and started walking outside the boys' dorm room. It has been 2 years since Ray transmigrated in the Aurora world. During these 2 years he completely replaced Evan and took his position in the academy. No one suspected anything because Evan had no friends in the academy. Everyone looks down on Evan because it has been 3 years since he joined the academy, but he is still an F-rank hunter. No one knows about Evan's strange physique except the teachers of the academy. But Ray wasn't bothered by this. On the contrary, He was happy that he will not have to act like Evan when he met someone because no one ever talked to him. During these 2 years, Evan learned how to use a sword. Although he is not an expert in using a sword, after these 2 years he was still able to master basic swordsmanship after working hard these 2 years. Evan exited the boys' dormitory and started walking towards the exit of the Hunter Academy. Evan lives inside the Hunter Academy since all students who join the academy can live there for free, but you can only stay inside the academy for 4 years, and this is Evan's last year. When Evan was walking towards the exit of the academy, many students looked at him with eyes filled with disgust. Although Evan's charm is quite high and he looked really handsome, people think of him as a useless man who is afraid of the dungeon and can't enter inside it. Evan didn't care about the looks he was receiving and continued to go towards the exit of the academy. After coming out from the academy, Evan walked for 5 minutes and took a taxi. "City Plaza please," Evan said to the taxi driver after sitting inside the taxi. The driver nodded and started to drive towards the City Plaza. Evan closed his eyes and started to think about what he is going to do today. Currently Evan is going to the City Plaza to buy a potion called Invisibility Potion. It's a rank 2 potion that can make you invisible for 3 hours. If you use this potion, no one below rank C will be able to detect you. Evan is going to buy this potion because he is going to enter inside a D rank dungeon, Shadow Kingdom, alone. Evan did many jobs during these 2 years to save enough money to buy this potion so he can enter a D rank dungeon. Even before 8 transmigrated here previous, Evan was also saving money to buy this potion so he can kill some D rank shadow monsters after entering the D rank dungeon. During these 2 years, Evan wasn't able to increase his power even a little because he wasn't able to get any shadow core that he can use to increase his power. In the end he decided to buy an invisibility potion so when he will enter inside D rank dungeon, monster won't be able to see him and he will be able to kill them. After 15 minutes Evan arrived in the market area. He paid the taxi bill and walked towards a large building. He entered the building and took the elevator to arrive at the 7th floor of the building where they sell potions and other herbs. Evan came before the reception of the floor where a young man was standing with a smile. When he saw Evan he asked politely, "How can I help you, sir? Do you guys have an invisibility potion?" Evan asked after coming in front of the receptionist. "Give me a minute to check our stock," the receptionist said and looked at the details on his computer. After 20 seconds he said, "We have rank 1 and rank 2 invisibility potions." Evan nodded and asked for a rank 2 invisibility potion. Rank 1 invisibility potion will make you invisible for 1 hour and it can't hide you from D rank monsters. When the receptionist heard this he made a call and soon a lady brought a small box. After giving the box to the receptionist she left. The receptionist opened the box and took out a bottle that was filled with a dark blue liquid. Evan touched the bottle and its details appeared on his status window. Invisibility potion, rank 2. After drinking this potion the consumer will become invisible for 3 hours and no one below rank C will be able to detect him. Evan nodded after seeing the details and asked, "How much is this?" "This potion is our bestseller and there are many people who wanted to buy." The receptionist wasn't able to finish his words before Evan interrupted him. "Just tell me the price. I don't care if this is your bestseller potion or worst seller potion. It's just 30,000 credits." The receptionist wasn't offended by Evan's words and said the price with the same smile. Evan's heart skipped a beat after hearing this. He knew invisibility potions are expensive, but he never expected them to be this expensive. Currently he has around 32,000 credits that he saved in the past 2 years. Even the money previous Evan saved is included in it. Evan looked at the receptionist and asked, "Can't you give me a little discount?" "Sorry sir, this potion is our bestseller so we can't give you any discount on it," the receptionist said with the same smile. Evan sighed after hearing this, but he still paid for the potion and bought it. "Thanks for your purchase sir," the receptionist said with the same smile that started to irritate Evan for some reason. Evan took the bottle of potion and left the shop. His next destination is D rank Shadow Kingdom dungeon. After buying the potion Evan came out from the plaza and sighed, "I just have 2,000 credits left. If I don't get anything inside the dungeon I will be doomed." Evan spent his 2 years of saving to buy this potion so he can enter inside D rank dungeon and kill some D rank shadow monsters and get some shadow cores. There is around a 20% chance of getting a core by killing a monster. Evan is hoping that he will be able to kill around 15 monsters in 3 hours, and will get around 3 shadow cores in that period. Evan is praying that his E+ luck will do some trick and he will be able to get at least 3 shadow cores. Evan wanted to get 3 shadow cores because 1 shadow core can be sold at 30,000 credits. If he gets 3 shadow cores he will be able to get his 30,000 credits back by selling 1 core, and he can increase his power by absorbing the remaining 2 cores. After thinking about this, Evan started to walk away from the plaza. After walking for some time, Evan took another taxi and said, "Shadow Kingdom, please." The driver nodded and started driving towards the north direction of the Astrate City where the Shadow Kingdom dungeon is located. The Hunter Academy Evan is currently studying is called Astrate Hunter Academy and it's located inside the Astrate City. Evan closed his eyes while thinking about the dungeon. The Shadow Kingdom dungeon is one of the most dangerous D-rank dungeon, but Evan still decided to enter inside it because unlike other dungeons you can easily find monsters in the Shadow Kingdom dungeon. Since Evan just have 3 hours he wanted to use them properly, and after seeing the details of all rank D dungeons Evan find the Shadow Kingdom dungeon most suitable for him. Evan took a deep breath while sitting in the taxi. Truth to be told, he was quite nervous because it will be his first time when he enters inside the dungeon. Although it has been 2 years since he came into this world, he spent most of his time earning money to buy this potion and learn swordsmanship. There is no use thinking about it now. I already purchased the potion and I will not be able to stay inside the academy from next year. If I want to survive in this world I have to take this risk, Evan thought, and a determined look appeared on his face. After 2 hours of driving the taxi finally stopped. Evan exited the taxi and paid the bill. After paying the bill Evan looked in front of him where he can see a giant monolith structure. Evan came a little closer to the structure and was finally able to see it properly. It was a huge black monolith structure that was surrounded by high walls. There was security at the entrance and heavily armed soldiers on the walls. Evan took out his hunter card and started to walk toward the security guards who were standing at the entrance of the dungeon. The guards didn't pay much attention to Evan and just asked for his hunter card, but when the guard saw Evan is just an F-rank hunter he looked at him strangely and asked, "Do you know this is not an F or E rank dungeon but a D rank dungeon, right?" Evan anticipated this kind of reaction so he was not surprised and nodded calmly, "Yes, I know it's rank D dungeon, Shadow Kingdom." "Are you sure you want to enter inside the dungeon? There is a high possibility that you will die inside with your current power," the guard warned Evan, but Evan just nodded after hearing his warning. When the guard saw this he shrugged his shoulders and permitted Evan to enter the dungeon. His job is to keep eyes on the people who enter the dungeon and tell them about the danger of the dungeon, but even after his warning Evan wanted to enter the dungeon. He could not care less about it. Evan came before the entrance of the dungeon, which was a 5-meter high and 3 meters wide portal. Evan looked at the giant hole-type portal seriously and after taking a deep breath he entered the portal. Upon entering the portal Evan was teleported to a hallway. Evan looked around him and he just saw dark walls all around him. Evan looked behind him and saw the same portal there. Evan sighed in relief when he saw the portal. At least he is now sure that he can leave from here whenever he wanted. Evan took a deep breath and first took out a sword that he brought with him from the academy. Evan used a paralyzing poison to coat the sword so he can kill the monster more easily. After taking out the sword Evan looked at the hallway that was leading him deeper in the hall. Evan took out the invisibility potion and looked at it carefully. All novels that I read in my past life mentioned that the potions always taste like shit. I don't know how those authors know how shit tastes like, but I hope I will not throw up after drinking it, Evan said and opened the lid of the bottle. Gulp gulp, it tastes like a chocolate smoothie, Evan said after drinking the potion. I think I can drink it every day in the morning, Evan thought, but when he remembered the price of this potion and his remaining bank account balance he forgot about drinking this potion every morning. After drinking the potion Evan suddenly felt like his body started to turn illusionary and after 10 seconds he disappeared from the place he was standing. Evan tried to move here and there but didn't find anything odd. After he confirmed that the potion was working Evan started to walk deeper into the hallway. Evan didn't want to waste even a second since the effect of the potion will wear off after 3 hours, and just like he read about Shadow Kingdom, he soon saw a monster sleeping not so far away from him. Seeing the monster, Evan took a deep breath and walked toward it. Evan stopped 50 meters away from the monster and looked at it carefully. The monster in front of him was a 2 meters tall wolf. The wolf was lying on the ground apparently sleeping. The fur of the wolf was pitch black and Evan was sure that even with his sword it will be very difficult for him to pierce through that fur. Evan looked at the wolf and after hesitating a little he slowly started to walk towards it. Evans's heart was beating like a drum because this is the first time he used invisibility potion and he was not sure if it will hide his presence from this wolf. Although in the details of the potion it was written that if a monster is not a C rank or above it will not be able to detect his presence. Evan was still feeling nervous because if this potion didn't work his life would be in serious danger here. Evan slowly moved towards the wolf while holding his sword. He was walking very slowly so that he will not make any sound. When he was just 10 meters away from the wolf, Evan saw the wolf suddenly open its eyes and looked around it with confusion. When the wolf opened its eyes, Evan stopped where he was standing and even stopped breathing. Cold sweat appeared on Evan's back when he saw how the wolf was looking here and the like searching for something. Luckily the wolf soon gave up and once again returned to sleep. Evan sighed in relief when he saw the wolf wasn't able to detect him even though he was just 10 meters away from it. Evan once again started to move towards the wolf with slow steps. When Evan was 5 meters away from it he stopped breathing and carefully came near it. When Evan was just 2 meters away from it he held his sword tightly and just like he practiced for the past 2 years slashed his sword in a swift motion. Evan targeted the eyes of the wolf so that it will become blind and it was the only place that it was not covered by its thick black fur. Howl! The wolf howled in pain when Evan destroyed the left eye of the wolf and after destroying the left eye Evan didn't stop and immediately attacked the right eye. Since Evan was invisible and the wolf just lost its left eye it wasn't able to sense the danger and its right eye was also destroyed. Howl! Black blood flow out from the destroyed eyes of the wolf and it fell to the ground because of the pain. Evan didn't miss this chance and thrust his sword at the heart of the wolf, but just as Evan expected his sword wasn't able to dig deeper into the skin of the wolf because of its metallic-like thick fur, but Evan didn't give up and continued to thrust his sword at the same place. When Evan was about to thrust his sword for the 5th time he saw how the wolf suddenly lifted its right claw and slashed towards his direction. Evan quickly stopped his attack and backed away from the wolf. The claw of the wolf barely missed him. When Evan saw how even after becoming blind this wolf was still able to attack him, he became even more cautious and moved behind the wolf. The wolf slowly stood up and tried to sniff around it to find Evan, but because of the invisibility potion, it wasn't able to find anything. The wolf started to slash with its claw here and there, but after 30 seconds the wolf started to have difficulty moving its body. When Evan saw this, he quickly understood that the paralyzing poison is finally working. Suddenly the wolf fell to the ground and wasn't able to move its body. When Evan saw this he quickly came near the wolf and thrust his sword near its heart. Because the wolf wasn't able to move, Evan easily killed it. After killing the wolf, Evan quickly looked for the core. "Please give me a core," Evan said and looked near the area of the wolf's heart. The cores of monsters are located near their heart. Evan made a hole near the heart area of the wolf with the help of his sword and put his hand inside the hole to look for the core. Suddenly Evans felt his hand touch something solid and his eyes lit up when he felt this. Evan quickly grabbed it and pulled out his hand. When Evan looked at his hand he found a black round object that was around the size of a golf ball. Evan almost laughed out loud when he saw this. Although it is his first time seeing a shadow core in real life, he saw many pictures of these cores online. "I can't believe this small thing is worth 30,000 credits. I worked more than 2 years to make this much money," Evan said after seeing how the shadow core just looks like a normal marble. Evan carefully put away the core inside his bag and after looking at the corpse of the wolf one last time he started to walk deeper into the hallway. Since the moment Evan entered the dungeon 15 minutes already passed away, so he moved quickly into the hallway and just after 2 minutes of walking Evan once again saw something a little far away from him. When Evan looked carefully and saw 2 monsters, one was a cat-like monster and the other looked like a hyena. Both cat and hyena were sleeping. Evan looked at them carefully and decided to kill the cat monster first because from the looks of it, the defense of the cat monster looks very weak and he should be able to kill it with a single move. With this thought in mind, Evan slowly started to walk towards the cat. When he was 20 meters away from the cat suddenly stood up and looked in his direction. When Evan saw this, he stopped moving and even stopped breathing. The cat didn't look away and continued to look in the direction where Evan was standing. "Don't tell me it can see me," Evan thought, and his heart started to beat like crazy. Suddenly the cat stood up and started to move in his direction. Slowly the cat started to close the distance between them. When the hyena heard the sound of the cat's footsteps, it also woke up and looked at the cat with a puzzled expression. When Evan saw even the hyena woke up, he almost cursed the receptionist who sold him this potion. The cat-type monster slowly walked towards Evan. The monster had the same height as a normal cat, but its fur was pitch black and its eyes were deep red. Even when Evan saw the cat was walking towards him, he didn't move because he can see the confusion on the face of the cat monster. It may have sensed something, but it still wasn't able to detect the presence of Evan. Soon the cat was just 2 meters away from Evan. The cat stopped after coming 2 meters away from Evan. When Evan saw how close the cat monster was standing, he started to sweat buckets. The cat monster sniffed the air after stopping near Evan and made a confused face like its senses were telling it there is something, but for some reason it wasn't able to see or detect its presence. When Evan looked at the hyena, he saw the hyena was looking at the cat in confusion, which means the senses of the hyena didn't detect anything. When Evan saw the hyena wasn't able to detect his presence, he looked at the cat once again and saw it started to walk away from him. When it didn't find anything, Evan sighed in relief when he saw this and once again confirmed that he should kill the cat monster first because it was the only one who was able to sense him. Gra-ra-ra-ra. The hyena made a strange sound when it saw the cat monster coming back, but the cat monster didn't even look at it and once again went to sleep. Gra-ra-ra. The hyena made another strange sound like it was irritated by the behavior of the cat, but it also went to sleep once again. When Evan saw both monsters once again went to sleep, he sighed in relief and waited for 5 minutes before once again starting to move towards the cat monster with slow steps. Soon Evan was just 5 meters away from it. The nose of the cat monster twitched a little when Evan was just 5 meters away from it. When Evan saw this, he stopped once again and his heart almost leapt out from his chest. When Evan stopped, the nose of the cat monster also stopped twitching. When Evan saw this, he once again started to walk towards it. When he was just 2 meters away from the cat, he slashed at the neck of the sleeping cat with his full power. Just as Evan slashed, the eyes of the cat opened abruptly and it tried to jump away from its position. Although the cat wasn't able to see anything, for some reason it felt great danger and without hesitation, it jumped away from its position. But alas, the cat realized the danger a little late. Even before the cat monster moved a little, the sword of the Ethan reached near its neck and separated its head from the rest of its body. Just as Evan expected, the defense of the cat monster was very weak and he was able to kill it with just a single attack. After killing the cat monster, when Evan looked at the hyena, it was already awake and was looking at the dead cat monster with its eyes wide open. When Evan saw this, he first backed away a little from the cat monster's body and looked at the hyena from a little distance away. He wanted to confirm that the hyena still can't sense his location. The hyena started to look here and there in the hallway. When Evan saw this, he sighed in relief. He was about to move towards the hyena when he confirmed that it still can't sense him. When suddenly the hyena opened its mouth wide and shot a dark energy ball near the body of the cat monster. Evan, who was already standing far away from the body of the cat monster, stopped and looked at the hyena with serious eyes. Boom! The dark energy ball landed near the body of the cat monster and its body turned into bits of flesh because of the explosion. But the hyena didn't stop and shot more energy balls at the different locations in the hallway. Evan, who saw how the hyena was shooting dark energy balls here and there like a mad beast, started to back away in the hallway. Suddenly, by chance, the hyena shot a dark energy ball in his direction. When Evan saw this, his eyes opened wide and he quickly crouched down to the ground. Just as Evan crouched down, the dark energy ball flew past his head, missing him just by a distance of a few centimeters. Boom! The energy ball landed 10 meters away from him and a 1 meter wide and 3 meter deep crater was formed because of the blast. When Evan saw the impact of the blast, cold sweat appeared all over his body. He quickly stood up and made more distance between himself and the hyena. After 5 minutes the hyena stopped shooting the dark energy ball and was panting a little because of so many attacks that it just used to find Evan. When Evan saw the hyena finally stop using its dark energy ball and was panting because of using its skill so many times, he quickly moved forward and started to walk towards the hyena. The hyena was still on full alert and was looking here and there in the hallway with cautious eyes. Evan slowly and carefully moved towards it, and even when he was just 10 meters away from the hyena it still didn't react. Evan stopped breathing when he was just 10 meters away from the hyena and slowly came near it, and instead of slashing at its eyes, Evan thrust his sword inside the eye of the hyena. Surprisingly, even when the sword was about to pierce through its eye, the hyena wasn't able to detect Evan. A light blue arrow appeared around the sword just before it pierced through the eye of the hyena, and because of this light blue arrow the power of Evan's attack increased greatly. Evan used the little mana he had to increase the power of his attack, so his attack can destroy the brain of the hyena in just a single attack. He already wasted around 20 minutes fighting against the cat and hyena and can't waste any more time. The sword was easily able to bypass the little defense near the eye of the hyena and enter deep inside it. A pain-filled howl was heard inside the hallway before the hyena dropped to the ground motionless when its brain was destroyed by Evan in just a single attack. Evan pulled back the sword and saw he used 1/5 of his mana in just this single attack. I will have to use mana more carefully since I don't have much mana, Evan thought, and started to look for the core inside the body of the hyena. Evan used his sword and made a cut near the heart of the hyena to look for the core, but he was disappointed when he did not find any core inside the hyena. Evan came near the body of the cat that was already blown away by the attack of the hyena. Earlier there were just chunks of flesh there. The entire body of the cat was destroyed because of the blast earlier. Evan tried to look for the core near the destroyed body of the cat monster, but when he didn't find anything even after 5 minutes, he stopped looking inside. The chances of these monsters having a core were already low, so I guess instead of wasting my time here I should move forward and kill other monsters. 40 minutes have passed since Evan entered the dungeon. He now had only 140 minutes left before the effect of the invisibility potion ends, so Evan moved quickly and started to walk deeper into the dungeon. After 1.5 hours Evan was sitting on the ground while panting heavily. There were 3 corpses of rabbit-type monsters lying near him. During these 1.5 hours Evan killed 7 more monsters, but he got only 1 core from these 7 monsters. He now has only 40 minutes left before the effect of the invisibility potion ends, and he still got only 2 cores. I can't go more deeper in the dungeon or I will not be able to leave the dungeon before the effect of the invisibility potion run out. Looks like I can only leave the dungeon with these 2 cores this time, Evan said with a bitter tone, because even after doing everything he only got 2 cores and he can't absorb them because he has to sell them so he can get his 30,000 credits back and buy another potion so he can once again enter the dungeon safely. It will take Evan 30 minutes to return to the portal of the dungeon, so Evan stood up with a bitter face and started to walk towards the portal. At least I got experience of fighting against these monsters. When I came here next time I will be able to kill them more easily and maybe I will get more cores next time, Evan said and tried to console himself. Suddenly Evan stopped because he saw a monster sleeping in the hallway. Evan was confused after seeing the monster because he was sure that he killed all the monsters when he passed by here earlier, but Evan then remembered that monsters will once again appear inside the dungeon after some time when you killed them. The monster in front of Evan was a wolf-type monster, the same type of monster that he killed when he first entered the dungeon. It will take me 25 minutes to reach the portal and I still have 35 minutes. I should be able to kill this monster in 10 minutes. Maybe I will get a shadow core by killing it, Evan thought after seeing the shadow wolf. Evan slowly started to walk towards it like last time and didn't make any sound. Soon Evan was just 10 meters away from it. The nose of the sleeping wolf twitched when Evan was just 10 meters away from it. Evan stopped walking and held his breath so that the wolf won't detect him. Soon the nose of the wolf stopped twitching and Evan once again started to walk towards it. When Evan was just 1 meter away from it, he slashed his sword at the eyes of the wolf. But just as Evan slashed his sword, all hairs on the wolf's body stood up because of the danger, and without even opening its eyes, the wolf tried to roll away from its location. Although the wolf reacted super fast, Evan was still able to slash at the left eye of the wolf. Howl! The wolf howled in pain when one of its eyes was destroyed. Evan tried to attack the wolf once again while it was still recovering from his earlier attack, but just as Evan was about to attack it, the fur of the wolf shined in ominous black light. When Evan saw this, he quickly stopped his attack and backed away from the wolf. Just as Evan backed away from the wolf, a cloud of black smoke came out from its body. When Evan saw the black cloud, he felt a chill run down all over his body, because when the black smoke touched the hard floor of the dungeon, it started to melt. Evan can't even imagine what would have happened if he was a second late to back away from the wolf. The cloud of black smoke surrounded the area of around 2 meters near the wolf. Evan looked at the cloud from a little distance and hoped that the paralyzing poison will soon take the effect and the wolf will be paralyzed. After a minute, the black cloud disappeared and the wolf monster once again appeared before Evan. One of its eyes was destroyed and black blood was coming out from it continuously. After the black cloud disappeared, the wolf started to back away slowly and tried to retreat from but because of the paralyzing poison, its legs were shaking and it dropped to the ground. When Evan saw this, he didn't wait and quickly charged towards it, and after coming near the wolf, Evan slashed his sword at the other eye of the wolf. Howl! The wolf howled in pain and black blood flowed out from its destroyed eye. After making the wolf blind, Evan easily killed it. Evan wiped the invisible sweat from his forehead and looked for the core. Evan made a hole near the heart area of the wolf and started looking for the core, and when his hand touched something round and solid while searching, his eyes lit up and he quickly pulled back his hand. When Evan pulled back his hand, there was a black marble size of a golf ball in his hand. When Evan saw this, a big smile appeared on his face, because now, even after selling 2 cores to get enough money to buy another invisibility potion, he can improve his power a little with the help of this core. Evan quickly put away the core and stood up to leave the dungeon, but just as he started walking towards the portal, black smoke came out from the black walls of the dungeon and started to gather at the same place. Soon the black smoke started to turn solid and took the shape of a flying type monster. When Evan saw the monster, he can feel that the monster was just D-ranked like others, but for some reason, his heart started to beat faster and faster. When the smoke completely solidified, a bat-like monster appeared before him. When Evan saw the bat-like monster, he almost cursed out loud. A 2-meter-long and 1-meter-tall bat-like monster appeared before Evan after the black smoke solidified. The bat was pitch black with crimson eyes. A 1-meter-long tail was coming out from its back, and the end of the tail was shaped in a strange way like a claw of a beast. After the bat appeared, it looked in the direction of the dead wolf. When it smelled blood, Evan was standing a little far away from the corpse of the wolf. After seeing the corpse of the wolf, the bat opened its mouth and released sound waves from its mouth. When Evan saw this, he knew that he will not be able to hide from the bat with the help of the invisibility potion. As you all know, bats navigate and find insect prey using echolocation. They produce sound waves at frequencies above human hearing, called ultrasound. The sound waves emitted by bats bounce off objects in their environment. Then, the sounds return to the bat's ears, which are finely tuned to recognize their own unique calls. So when Evan saw the bat using echolocation to find him, he knew that he is doomed. Evan didn't wait for the bat and started to run toward the portal, but how can Evan run faster than the sound waves? Soon the sound waves returned back to the bat after bouncing off from Evan, and the bat was able to find his location. The bat quickly flew towards Evan, who was running towards the portal. When the bat-like monster arrived at the location from where the sound was reflected, it didn't find anyone, so the bat used the echolocation location once again. The sound waves once again spread throughout the entire hallway and reflected back to bat, and it was once again able to find Evan's location, who was 150 meters away from it. When the bat looked in the direction from which it once again sensed Evan, it didn't see anything, and bat finally understood that his enemy is using something to hide, so it can't see him with its eyes. The bat was a rank D monster, so it was quite intelligent. This time the bat didn't use echolocation, instead it came near the location where it last sensed Evan and opened its mouth wide and screeched in high-pitched voice. When the bat-like monster screeched, Evan, who was around 70 meters away from the bat, felt a splitting headache and fell to the ground. Evan clutched his head and gritted his teeth to not make any sound, but because of the attack of the bat, the ears of Evan started to bleed. After 5 seconds the bat stopped its sound attack, and this time, even without using echolocation, it was able to find Evan because of the blood that was flowing out from his ears. When the bat stopped its attack, the headache of Evan also lessened quite a bit. He stood up with trembling feet and looked in the direction of the bat, which was also looking in his direction with its deep crimson eyes that were filled with murderous intentions. When Evan felt the blood dripping from his ears, he knew that he can't hide from the bat now, and it was more than clear that he can't outrun the bat and reach the portal before the bat attacked him again. I guess I spent all of my luck when I got 3 shadow cores just by killing 11 monsters, Evan said in a bitter tone when he saw the bat flying towards his direction. Even before I entered here I knew that the chances of my dying here are very high, but I still took the risk because I don't want to live a useless life. Evan held his sword tightly in his hand and a determined look appeared on his face. I may die again today, but it will be better than living like this every day. During these 2 years, although Evan tried to live a normal life, deep down he felt empty because every morning he woke up and go to hunting classes alone to learn more about this new world. After the classes were ended, he go to learn swordsmanship, and after his swordsmanship class he will have to earn money so he can buy invisibility potion that can help him improve his power a little. During these 2 years, instead of living, Evan was trying to survive in this world. He has no friends. Every person in the academy looked down on him. When the memories of these 2 years came into Evan's mind, he felt like even if he die here it will change nothing. Thinking about this, all fear that Evan was feeling disappeared, and he looked at the bat who already arrived near him. The bat came flying towards him and opened its mouth to release sound shockwaves. The sound shockwaves traveled towards Evan, who jumped sideways just in time to dodge the attack. The shockwaves were like an unstoppable force that even destroyed the hard floor of the dungeon. Evan quickly looked at the bat once again after dodging the attack and tried to think of a way to attack the bat, because while the bat is flying he can't attack it. Evan looked around him and saw many stones the size of a golf ball. These stones were broken from the floor of the dungeon after the attack of the bat. Evan quickly moved towards them and picked up 2 stones. Just as Evan picked up 2 stones, he once again jumped sideways to dodge another attack of the bat. After dodging the attack, Evan didn't wait and imbued the little mana in the stone. If he used a normal stone to attack the D-rank bat, Evan knew that with his pitiful strength he won't even be able to scratch it, let alone harm it. When Evan imbued a little mana into the stone, a light blue layer appeared around the pitch-black stone. Evan didn't wait any longer because the mana of the stone started to disperse in the surrounding environment. When he stopped putting more mana into it, with all of his strength, Evan threw the stone toward the bat, which once again opened its mouth to attack Evan. The stone traveled like a meteorite and hit it at the center of its forehead. Shrink! The bat shrieked in pain when the stone was able to pass through its defense and black blood flowed out from its forehead. Because of the sudden attack, the bat lost its balance and started to fall down from the sky. When Evan saw this, he held his sword tightly and charged toward the falling bat. While running towards the falling bat, Evan imbued little mana to the second stone in his hand and just like before threw it towards the falling bat. This time the stone hit the bat near the stomach area but wasn't able to pierce through its defense. But the pain of being hit by mana-imbued stone still made the falling bat shriek in pain. Thump! With a loud thump, the 2-meter-long bat fell to the ground. Before the bat regained its senses after falling, Evan came before it and slashed his sword at the eyes of the bat. When the bat sensed the danger, it swung its 1-meter-long tail that was shaped like a claw at the end towards the face of Evan. When Evan saw the tail that was approaching his face like a whip, he stopped his attack, but the tail was too fast, so he wasn't able to dodge it and can only use his sword to defend against the impact. The power of the D-rank bat was too much for Evan, who is still an F-rank hunter, so when its tail clashed with his sword, Evan was thrown 5 meters away from it because of the impact. Because of the impact, Evan's hands were shaking and he felt like the bones of his hand are almost fractured. Evan stood up with difficulty and found the bat once again flying up in the sky and was looking at him coldly with crimson eyes. Its forehead was still bleeding because of his earlier attack. The bat used his wings and dived towards Evan with high speed and came before him in an instant. Evan wasn't even able to follow the movement of the bat because its speed was too fast for him to see. When he realized the danger, the bat already appeared in front of him. After coming before Evan, the bat used its front claw and tried to cut off his neck with a single sweep. Evan tried to dodge the attack by jumping sideways, and because of his fast reaction, the claw of the bat missed his neck and wounded his left shoulder. Evan cried in pain when the bat ripped a large portion of his shoulder. The left side of his shoulder became completely red because of the blood. Evan fell to the ground after dodging the attack, and even before he could stand up, the bat once again flew toward him. Evan, who fell down to the ground face first, was trying to stand up when the bat reached near him in an instant and used his claw to dig it deeper into the back of Evan. Evan cried in pain when the bat started to absorb his blood through its claw that he dug into his back. The bat attached itself to the back of Evan with the help of its claw and continued to absorb his blood. "Damn you, even if I die here I am going to take you with me," Evan shouted because of the pain and rage, and used his shadow walk skill. Suddenly Evan disappeared and turned into a shadow. The bat, who was absorbing his blood with the help of its claw, fell to the ground when Evan suddenly disappeared. Because Evan didn't have much mana, he quickly came out from his shadow after freeing himself from the bat and used his sword to stab the eye of the bat. There was a large wound at the back of Evan, and even his bones were visible because of the wound. Blood continues to flow out from his wound. Because Evan suddenly appeared before the bat using his shadow walk skill, the bat wasn't able to react in time and one of its eyes was stabbed by the sword. Shrink! The bat shrieked in pain and black blood flow out from the destroyed eye of the bat. Evan didn't stop after destroying the eye of the bat and used the little mana he had. A light blue layer of mana covered his sword and he slashed the sword at the neck of the bat. When the bat felt the danger of death, it used its tail and tried to stop the sword. The tail and sword clashed and the hand of Evan shook because of the impact, but the tail of the bat was also severed in two because of the increased power of the sword by mana. A fountain of black blood erupted from the severed tail of the bat and it shrieked in pain. Evan's hands were trembling because of his earlier clash with the bat's tail, but he didn't stop and once again slashed his sword at the right eye of the bat. Because of the pain that bat was feeling after its tail was cut off, it wasn't able to evade the attack and its right eye was also destroyed by Evan. Evan was feeling dizzy because he lost too much blood and was on the verge of passing out. His whole body was aching because of the injuries and he knew that there is very little hope for him to survive even if he killed the bat. After destroying the eye of the bat, Evan was about to finish off the bat when it suddenly opened its mouth to release a sound shockwave attack. Evan quickly reacted and thrust his sword inside the head of the bat. He used all of his remaining mana in the attack. Although Evan reacted quickly and his sword even dug deeper into the head of the bat, it was still able to release its attack. Evan was standing too close to the bat and his vision already started to turn blurry because of the blood loss, so he wasn't able to dodge the attack of the bat. The sound shockwave hit Evan and he flew backward like a broken kite and crashed against the wall of the dungeon. The wall of the dungeon crumbled because of the impact and Evan found himself lying on the cold floor of another hall room that appeared after the wall of the dungeon crumbled. When Evan crashed against the wall of the dungeon because of the attack of the bat, the wall crumbled and a new hall room appeared behind the wall. Evan was lying face first on the ground of the floor room. This new hall room was completely dark. There was no light inside this hall room, but even if this room was as bright as day, it would not matter to Evan because after taking the attack directly from the bat, his consciousness started to fade away. Blood was flowing out from his wounds and a puddle of blood formed near him. Suddenly the blood started to move on its own like it was being attracted by something, but Evan, whose vision already started to turn black, wasn't able to see anything. The blood moved deeper into the new hall room where a small platform was located. An octagram-shaped picture was engraved on the small platform, and in front of the platform a strange statue that was pitch black was located. The statue looked like a human, but there was a long horn coming out from its forehead, and from the features of the statue it was hard to determine whether it is statue of a male or a female. The statue was 5 meters tall and the horn that was coming out from its head was 1 meter long. Evan's blood moved towards the platform and came into the contact with the octagram engraving. When the blood touched the engraving, all 8 points of the octagram lit up and started to absorb the blood of Evan. The color of the octagram started to change and soon it turned into light red. After 1 minute, when the octagram turned light red, the eyes of the statue also lit up into light red color, and Evan, who was just about to pass out from the blood loss and injuries, heard a cold voice inside his mind. What do you want to sacrifice? Present time. A pain-filled scream came from Evan's mouth after he was engulfed by black smoke once again. Evan never felt pain like this before. He felt like someone is slowly tearing him apart from the inside. Suddenly the black smoke that engulfed Evan started to enter his body through his eyes, nose, mouth and ears. When black smoke entered his mouth and nose, Evan started to have difficulty in breathing. The pain of sacrificing his physique was so intense that the pain he felt while fighting against the bat felt like a blessing. Tears started to flow out from his eyes that turned completely pitch black because of the smoke that was covering his eyes entirely. After 30 seconds, Evan was on verge of passing out from the pain, and just as he was about to pass out because of the pain, the black smoke that entered his body started to come out. Soon all the black smoke that entered his body came out and started to move back from his body. I have successfully extracted your shadow physique. Evan heard the same cold voice again while lying on the floor. He was breathing heavily and his vision was blurry. Evan wanted to curse this bastard, but he wasn't even able to move his fingers because of the exhaustion. Here are the cores that I promised to give you after taking your physique. Evan heard the cold voice again and something dropped near him, but he wasn't even able to move his head to see what it was. But Evan wanted to check, can he really absorb other cores now that his physique is gone? So he mustered all his strength and looked at the black smoke that was floating some distance away from him. For some reason Evan was able to see everything clearly even in the darkness. Evan didn't pay any attention to it and was about to ask, can he absorb other cores now, when he felt a sudden pain in his heart. Ugh! The pain was even more intense that he just experienced, so Evan passed out in just 1 second. Just as Evan passed out, a black core erupted from his body and covered the entire hall room, including the platform where the octagram and statue were located. As soon as the black aura touched the statue turned into dust, and the black smoke that covered Evan previously also disappeared from the whole room. The 8 sides of the octagram stopped shining in light red color, and soon even the platform turned into dust. The whole room turned pitch black because of the black aura that was coming out from Evan. Thump, thump, thump. Evan's heart started to beat faster and faster, and in this silent hall room, it was like someone is beating a drum. An illusory black round ball size of rice grain started to form inside Evan's heart. The ball was pitch black and was like it will engulf anything that will come near it. Evan passed out the moment this illusionary black ball started to form inside his heart. The illusory ball started to turn solid as time passes, and after 30 minutes it turned completely solid like a black marble, but its size didn't change. Just as the black ball turned solid inside Evan's heart, his black hair turned completely dark just like the ball that formed inside his heart. The color of his hair was so dark that it felt like it will swallow even the light if it came near it. The black aura that was coming from Evan's body started to retreat inside his body and was swallowed by the strange black ball that formed inside his heart. Even after the black ball was completely formed inside Evan's heart, he didn't wake up and continued to sleep. Many changes appeared in his status window after Evan lost his shadow physique, and the strange black ball formed inside his heart that he will find when he will woke up. Evan slowly opened his eyes while lying face first on the cold floor of the hall room. He slowly tried to sit up, but he felt completely exhausted like he just ran a marathon. Evan sat up with difficulty and was confused at first why he is feeling so exhausted. Soon memories of what happened before he passed out came into his mind, and Evan looked in the hall for the black smoke, but he didn't find anything. Evan just saw a mountain of dust a little far away from him, that was formed after the statue and the platform turned into dust because of black aura that erupted from Evan's body. But suddenly Evan felt something is not right because for some reason he felt his vision is much better than before and he can see things much more clearly than before. Evan was confused at first, but then he remembered the cause that the person who took his physique away gave him. He looked to his right side where he remembered the black smoke dropped something. Evan saw a ring placed near him. When he saw the ring, Evan's heart skipped a beat. He slowly picked up the ring with trembling hands and looked at the ring closely. When he confirmed what it was, he closed his eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. Ha ha ha! Suddenly Evan burst into laughter. This is really a storage ring. I can't believe that devil gave me a storage ring. I can easily sell it for 100,000 credits. Storage rings are not rare in our world, but only rich people can afford them. Evan, who barely saved 30,000 credits to buy a potion after working for 2 years, can never imagine to buy this ring, but here he got it for free. Evan quickly put a drop of blood on the storage ring to link it with himself. After linking the storage ring with himself, Evan quickly checked how many cores the devil gave him. This Evan's jaw almost dropped to the ground when he checked the storage ring. There were nearly 50 cores inside the storage ring. Evan nearly died because he entered the dungeon to get 3 cores, but here he got a storage ring and 50 cores just by sacrificing that useless physique. Was that devil a moron? He healed me, then gave me a stronger ring and so many cores just for that useless physique, Evan said with a speechless expression. Did he really take away my physique? Evan said with a doubtful tone and opened his status window. Name, Evan. Rank, F. Monarch Core. Rank, F. Strength, F. Agility, F. Mana, F. Stamina, F+ Intelligence, F. Luck, E+ Charm, D. Skill: Shadow Walk Physique: Shadow Monarch Physique. Title: Job: None. What is this Monarch Core rank? Evan asked after seeing a new term in his status window, but he continued to look down till he saw his physique. What? Evan shouted with a shocked voice after seeing a new name in his physique details. Just as Evan looked at the Shadow Monarch Physique, some details appeared on his status window. Shadow Monarch Physique: one of the forbidden physiques that exists in the world. It allows you to form a Monarch Core inside your heart. The Monarch Core can absorb 100 power of a core. While absorbing the core, there is a 3% chance that you will receive a skill of the monster from which the core was extracted. Boom! Evan felt like an explosion happened in his mind when he read the details of his new physique, because it is common knowledge that a person can only absorb a maximum of 50 power of a core, and here he is reading with the help of his new physique he can absorb 100 power of a core, and there is even 3% chance that he will receive a skill from that core. It's just underscore. Evan was lost for words because previously, because of his physique, he wasn't able to improve his power, but here now his new physique can improve his power at the fastest speed possible. But Evan quickly calmed down because there are many things that he didn't understand. First, how he got this physique. Second, what is a forbidden physique? Third, what is this Monarch Core inside his heart? There were just too many questions and no answers. His head started to ache just thinking about all of this. Wait, why can I see the details of this physique? Evan said while looking at the details of his physique, because in the past when he had shadow physique he was not able to see any details related to it. Whenever he tried to look at its details he was only able to see question marks and nothing else, but now for some reason, he can see the details of his new physique. Evan didn't understand what happened after he lost his physique. Monarch Core. I remembered I felt like my heart is going to burst apart before I passed out. Was it because of this core? Evan said and tried to sense something strange with his heart. Evan closed his eyes and focused his mana on his heart. Suddenly the picture of his heart appeared in his mind and Evan was able to see a pitch black ball size of a rice grain slowly rotating inside his heart. So this is a Monarch Core that can help me absorb 100% power of a core? Evan said doubtfully, because this core was just the size of a rice grain. How can it help him to absorb 100% power from a core? Evan looked at the storage ring that he received from the devil and took out a red cow from this. It was a fire core that must have been taken from a fire-type monster. All cores inside the storage ring were D rank. Evan took a deep breath after taking out the core. Let's see, can I now absorb cores that are not shadow type? Evan said and imbued his mana in the core to refine it. Just as Evan imbued his mana in the core, orange fire-like wisps started to appear around the core and moved toward Evan's body. Evan looked at this with nervous look, because if his body absorbs these wisps it means he can now absorb other cores as well, just like normal hunters. But if he wasn't able to absorb these wisps it means that nothing changed for him. The wisps slowly came near his body and were absorbed by him. Evan's eyes sparkled when he saw this, and in just 1 minute the core disappeared and Evan felt his power improved a little. I was just able to absorb 30% power of the core, Evan said when he wasn't able to absorb 100% power of the core. Is this physique also a scam? Evan said when he wasn't able to absorb 100% power of the core. Shadow Monarch Physique: one of the forbidden physiques that exists in the world. It allows you to form a monarch core inside your heart. The monarch core can absorb 100% power of a core. While absorbing the core there is a 3% chance that you will receive a skill of the monster from which the core was extracted. Evan read the details of the physique once again to confirm that he didn't read the details wrong earlier. After reading the details, Evan took out another core and once again tried to absorb it. Evan focused on the energy that was being absorbed by him from the core. After entering his body the energy moved near his heart, but instead of being absorbed by the monarch core, Evan noticed that the energy was being absorbed by his prime core. Just like monsters, humans also have a core inside their body which is located near their heart. Unlike monsters who have cores depending on their type, like fire monsters have a fire core inside their bodies, humans have a white core that is called the prime core. To improve their rank, humans have to refine this core and improve its rank. Currently, the rank of Evan's prime core is F, which is why he is F rank hunter. When Evan absorbed the power of the core, he noticed that instead of being absorbed by the monarch core, the energy of the core was being absorbed by his prime core. How am I supposed to absorb energy by monarch core? Evan was puzzled after seeing this, because he does not know how he can use his monarch core to absorb energy from the core. Evan took out another core and brought it near his chest area where his heart was located, but nothing happens. Evan looked at the core carefully and suddenly got the urge to eat it. I don't have to eat it, right? Evan said in disbelief when he suddenly got the urge to eat the core. I will die if I eat a core. According to what Evan learned in 2 years, you can't eat a core. If you eat a core, the unrefined energy in it will destroy your body from inside. You have to use your mana to refine the energy of a core and then you can absorb it to increase the rank of your core. There is a very high chance that you will die if you eat a core directly. That is why Evan was perplexed when he suddenly got the urge to eat the core. Evan tried other methods to absorb the core using his monarch core, but nothing worked. Do I really have to eat it? Evan hesitated to eat the core because if his monarch core did not absorb the energy, there is a high chance that he will die because of the unrefined energy of the core. I will not swallow the core and will just put it in my mouth, Evan said, and with hesitation. He put a core in his mouth. Evan made sure to not swallow the core because he knew that if he swallow the core and his physique not work, he will die horribly. Just as Evan put the core inside his mouth and it touched his tongue, the monarch core inside his heart that was rotating slowly suddenly picked up speed, like it sensed something, and just as the monarch core started to rotate faster, the core that Evan put in his mouth started to melt. Evan was shocked by the sudden turn of events, and even before he can do anything, the core disappeared and turned into pure energy that started to move toward his heart. Evan can feel the energy of the core came near his heart, but this time instead of going to the prime core, the energy of the core entered inside his heart and was absorbed by his rotating monarch core. Just as the monarch core absorbed all energy, Evan felt his body becoming more stronger, and it was clear that the monarch core absorbed all energy of the core and did not waste energy like the prime core. So this physique can really help me to absorb 100% energy of a core, Evan said with a delighted voice after he was able to absorb 100% energy of the core. But suddenly Evan thought about something and his eyes opened wide from shock. It can't be right, Evan said, and took out another core and put it inside his mouth just like before. The core turned into pure energy and was absorbed by his monarch core. Evan felt his body becoming stronger after he absorbed the core. Evan took out another core and this time used his mana to refine it. The energy of the core was absorbed by his prime core this time and he felt his body becoming a little stronger, although when he compared the progress with his monarch core it was not even half. I can really improve my power by increasing the rank of both cores, Evan said with an excited voice, because unlike others who can only get stronger just by increasing the rank of their prime core, Evan had 2 cores and he can increase his power by both cores, which means he will be far more powerful than a normal hunter who is in the same rank as him. I will have to use more cores than normal people since I have to improve the ranks of 2 cores instead of 1, but now that I can absorb any core just like others it won't be a problem for me. Besides, Evan looked at the storage ring and a smile appeared on his face. I think these core are enough to increase the rank of my monarch core to D rank, who can absorb 100% energy from a core. Evan decided to improve the rank of his monarch core first since it can absorb 100% energy from a core and there is even a 3% chance that he will receive a skill from a core that will increase his power even more. After deciding this, Evan did not wait any longer and started putting cores inside his mouth one by one. When Evan absorbed the 12th core, the 3% chance of getting a skill from the core was finally triggered and a notification appeared before him. Evan continues to absorb the cores using his monarch core, and when he absorbed his 12th core, which came from a wind-type monster, a notification appeared before him. You have learned skill Haste. I didn't expect to learn a skill this soon, Evan said with a delighted voice and looked at the details of his new skill. Haste, a skill that increases your agility by 20% for 1 minute. Cooldown time: 30 seconds. A simple but excellent skill for improving his agility. Although Evan was hoping to get an attack-type skill, he wasn't disappointed with the skill because there were still many cores left for him to absorb. After learning the skill, Evan continues to absorb more cores, and just as he absorbed 2 more cores after getting Haste skill, Evan felt his monarch core start to rotate faster and faster. Suddenly the mana from the surroundings started to flow towards him and enter his body. A whirlpool of mana appeared above Evan's head when the surrounding mana moved toward him. After entering his body, the mana moved toward his heart and was absorbed by his monarch core. Evan felt a slight pain in his heart, but he was able to endure it easily. The mana whirlpool above Evan's head continues to gather mana near Evan's body, and after a minute Evan felt his monarch core stop rotating. Suddenly the monarch core released a burst of energy, and this energy started to refine his body. Evan felt his body being strengthened to another level and his mana capacity increasing greatly. Name: Evan. Rank: F. Monarch core rank: E. Strength, F. Agility, F. Mana, F. Stamina, F+ Intelligence, F. Luck, E+ Charm, D+ Skill: Shadow Walk, Haste Physique: Shadow Monarch Physique. Title: Job: None. My monarch core directly advanced to the E rank instead of F+ rank, Evan said when he saw his status window. But why my states are still the same? I can clearly feel my strength, agility, and other state improved greatly after my monarch core advanced to E rank. Evan was confused when he saw his state didn't change even after his monarch core advanced to E rank. I think the state will only change when my prime core will advance. After thinking about it, Evan thought it was logical that his state will not change because of his monarch core, because even before his monarch core was formed inside his heart, his status window was showing the level of his prime core, and since it is still F rank, it was not surprising that his state did not change. Even if my status window is not showing, I can clearly feel my body is far stronger than before, and my mana capacity is also a lot higher than before. Evan didn't care about it much because this did not affect him in any negative way. Evan once again looked at the status window and his mouth twitched a little when he saw his charm was increased to D+ after his monarch core advanced. I wonder what those useless male students will do if they saw I become more handsome. Evan was often get bullied by both male and female students because of his handsome face. For some reason his charm was too high even when he was just in F rank. His charm was at D rank, so many male students were jealous of him, and since he was too weak they often bullied him because of this. Well, I don't think there will be anyone now who will able to do anything to me since I can also improve my power now, Evan said, and closed his status window and continued to absorb more cores to improve his Monarch core to D rank. Suddenly when Evan finished absorbing a core, a notification appeared before him. Evan's eyes lit up when he saw this because he got another skill from the core. This time Evan got a skill from a shadow core. You have learned the skill Shadow Bullet. Shadow Bullet. You can shoot a bullet made of shadow by using mana. The power of the bullet depends on how much mana you use to cast it. There is a 5% chance that the defender will become blind for 2 seconds after being hit by Shadow Bullet. Awesome, Evan said after reading the details of the skill. He wanted to get a skill that can help him attack from a long distance, and he just got a skill that he can use to attack from a long distance. Evan did not stop after getting the skill and continued to absorb more cores. Suddenly when he had only 8 cores left, he once again felt a slight pain in his heart and a mana whirlpool bigger than the previous one formed above his head. Mana once again started to move towards his body and was absorbed by his Monarch core once again. The Monarch core rotated faster and absorbed the mana from the whirlpool that was formed above his head. After some time the Monarch core stopped absorbing mana and released a burst of energy. Evan felt his body being strengthened to a new level and his mana capacity also increased greatly, but this time it did not end there, and just as his Monarch core advanced to D rank, a notification appeared before him. Monarch core advanced to D rank. You have received skill Shadow Storage. Shadow Storage, a special shadow space where you can keep anything that is not alive. The space of shadow storage depends on the level of the user. I can even get skills by improving my Monarch core level, Evan said in disbelief, because getting a skill is very hard and only a few people have more than one skill, and here he got 3 skills just by absorbing some cores. Evan looked at the remaining 8 cores and after thinking about it he decided to absorb them through his Monarch core, but when Evan tried to absorb the core he felt severe pain in his chest area. The energy of the core came near his Monarch core, but this time the Monarch core didn't absorb the energy. When the Monarch core did not absorb the energy, it moved towards his Prime core and was absorbed by it. But Evan felt severe pain in his chest area when the Prime core absorbed the energy, and to Evan's horror, he noticed some cracks started to appear on his Prime core. Evan's Prime core absorbed all energy that he wanted to refine through his Monarch core. When his Prime core absorbed all energy, it was filled with many cracks and Evan was panting heavily because of the pain he was feeling in his chest area. What the hell was that? Evan said after some time. When the pain in his chest area lessened a bit, Evan checked his Prime core and was horrified when he saw many cracks all over it. Evan quickly took out another cow from his storage ring and refined it using his mana and used the energy of the core to heal his Prime core. When the refined energy came near his Prime core, it started to heal cracks on it, and when he absorbed all energy of the core, all cracks on the core disappeared and his Prime core also advanced to F+ rank. Evan sighed in relief when the cracks of his core were healed and his Prime core also advanced to F+ rank. His Prime core was almost shattered because it was not able to handle the unrefined energy of the core that Evan absorbed directly. Unlike his Monarch core, which can absorb the energy without refining it, his Prime core can only absorb energy after Evan refines it by using his mana. But just now for some reason, his Monarch core did not absorb the unrefined energy and it moved near his Prime core that almost destroyed it. Why my Monarch core stopped absorbing more energy? Evan was confused by this sudden turn of events. Evan opened his status window and looked at his progress. Name, Evan. Rank, F+. Monarch core rank, D. Strength, F+. Agility, F+. Mana, F+. Stamina, F+. Intelligence, F+. Luck, E+. Charm, C. Skill: Shadow Walk, Haste, Shadow Bullet. Physique: Shadow Monarch. Physique title, Job: None. After seeing his status window and how his Monarch core directed the energy towards his Prime core, Evan concluded that to increase the rank of his Monarch core, Evan first have to increase the rank of his Prime core. I still have 7 cores left in my storage ring. These cores should be enough to advance my Prime core to E rank. Evan decided to improve the rank of his Prime core after he was unable to absorb energy using his Monarch core. At first, Evan thought that his monarch core will be advanced easily since it can absorb 100% energy of the core, but only when he started absorbing did he find out that even though his monarch core can absorb 100% of energy from a core, it still requires more cores than his prime core. But Evan was not bothered by this because he can feel that every time his monarch core advanced he receive a great boost in his power that his prime core can never provide. Evan absorbed his remaining cores, and just as he expected, his prime core was advanced to E rank. When he finished absorbing all the cores that he received after sacrificing his shadow physique, when his prime core advanced to E rank, Evan felt his body being strengthened to another degree, and he can't help but let out a sigh of satisfaction when he felt the boundless power that was running inside his body. Name: Evan. Rank: E monarch core. Rank: D strength, E agility, E mana, E stamina, E intelligence, E luck, D charm. C. Evan checked his states and was surprised when he noticed his charm did not increase after his prime core advanced to E rank. Evan closed his status window and finally stood up when he finished absorbing all cores. Evan felt a little odd when he stood up because his height, which was 180 centimeters previously, now increased to 185 centimeters, but he adjusted with it quickly and looked at the crumbled wall from which he came into this odd hall room. Evan looked in the whole room, but he didn't find anything other than a small mountain of dust that was formed after the statue and the platform turned into dust because of the black aura that erupted from his monarch core when it washed formed. When Evan did not find any trace of the person who spoke to him, he started to walk outside the hall room. Evan came out from the hall room through the crumbled wall. He saw the corpse of the bat that almost killed him with its last attack, but Evan had to close his eyes for some time because he felt the hallway was too bright and he is looking at the sun directly. After some time his eyes were able to adjust according to light, and when he saw the hall room behind the crumbled wall, he was surprised to find out that the entire hall room was completely dark, but he can still see everything clearly. I also got a night vision, Evan thought, when he finds out he can even see in complete darkness. After his eyes were adjusted to light, Evan came near the bat. His sword was stuck in its head, and it was clear that the bat died because of the sword attack that Evan did to it at the last moment. Evan came near the corpse of the bat and pulled out his sword. After pulling out his sword, he looked for the core, and to his surprise, he found a core inside the body of the bat. Evan happily put away the core inside his storage ring along with the other 3 cores that he got earlier by killing monsters. He did not absorb these cores because although he now have enough strength to enter the dungeon without the invisibility potion, he still wanted to sell some cores to earn a little money. His bank account almost got empty when he purchased the invisibility potion to enter the dungeon. I think my days of living on cup noodles are over now, Evan said with an emotional tone, because for the past 2 years since he was saving money he was forced to eat cup noodles every day. After selling the cores, I will definitely go to the most famous restaurant to eat something, Evan said, and started walking towards the exit of the dungeon. When Evan was just 700 meters away from the exit portal, he saw a lion-like monster who was 2 meters tall blocking his way, but feeling the fear that he felt when he saw the bat, this time Evan did not even flinch and continued to walk toward the lion with steady steps. For some reason, when he saw Shadow Lion Monster, he did not feel an ounce of threat from it. Evan also wanted to test his current power, so he calmly walked towards the lion. When the lion felt the presence of Evan, it looked towards his direction, and when its deep yellow eyes met with Evan's pitch black eyes, for some reason the lion felt the shadow power inside his body trembled because it looked in those deep black eyes. Evan stopped 50 meters away from the lion. The monster already noticed Evan, but it did not attack Evan immediately because it can feel a dangerous aura from Evan. Evan smiled when he saw how the lion was being careful when it saw him. If it was before, the lion would have already attacked him without giving him a chance to even take a breath. Roar! The lion roared at Evan when it saw how Evan was smiling in front of it. Although it can feel the danger from Evan as a monster whose primary instinct is to kill, it wasn't able to endure it much longer and charged towards Evan with its full speed. The lion was pretty fast for a D-rank monster, but when Evan saw it he felt like the lion was moving in slow motion. When the lion charged toward him, Evan also moved. Haste! Evan used his newly acquired skill Haste and his agility increased sharply. Evan disappeared from his place and appeared 70 meters behind the charging lion. When Evan stopped, he felt like his head was spinning, since he just advanced to D rank with his Monarch core and his Prime core also advanced to E rank. Evan's agility increased by many folds, and since he was using it for the first time he wasn't able to control it, and instead of appearing before the lion he appeared 70 meters behind it. Damn, I will have to practice if I don't want to crash against something while running, Evan said. When he saw how he wasn't able to control his new power, the lion who was charging towards Evan also stopped and quickly looked behind it. When it felt Evan's presence behind it, roar, the lion roared once again and shot towards Evan once again. Evan also took a deep breath and dashed towards the lion, but he did not use haste skill this time to improve his agility because he first wanted to control his natural speed. Even without using haste skill, Evan was much faster than the lion, and when he came near the lion, the monster used its front claw like a hammer to smash Evan's body, but he easily dodged the claw of the lion with his agility and punched the lion at its face. Roar! The lion roared in pain when Evan's fist landed straight into its face, and because of the impact, it was blasted 10 meters away from Evan. Evan was shocked by his own strength because normally an average rank D hunter will have a hard time while fighting against a monster who is in the same rank as him, but here he was not even using his full strength and he was still able to dominate the lion without much effort. Looks like the power Monarch core gave when it advanced to new rank is vastly different from the power that Prime core gave me, Evan said when he saw how he was able to fight against the lion without any effort. Roar! The lion roared and stood up after being blasted away by Evan's punch. Suddenly a black mist started to come out from the lion and covered its entire body. The mist started to solidify after covering the entire body of the lion, and soon the mist turned into armor that was covering the entire body of the lion. Because of the armor, the defense of the lion increased greatly, and with a loud roar, it once again dashed towards Evan. Evan didn't care about the skill that the lion just used and pointed one of his fingers toward the incoming lion. Shadow bullet, Evan muttered, and a dark bullet shot from his finger toward the lion with a frightening speed. Since the lion was running towards Evan at its full speed, it wasn't able to dodge the bullet, and the bullet struck the lion at the center of its head. The bullet pierced through the armor of the lion easily, and even the tough skin of the lion wasn't able to stop the shadow bullet completely. The bullet dug deeper into the head of the lion and made a small hole at the center of its forehead. Roar! With a loud roar, the running lion dropped to the ground when the bullet struck it at the center of its forehead, and black blood spurted out from its forehead. The power of Shadow Bullet is not bad, Evan said when he saw how his bullet easily pierced through the defense of the lion. I think I can easily take care of any rank D monster with my current power. I should finish this lion so I can go back and eat something. After doing so much today, I am starting to feel hungry, Evan said, and dashed towards lion, who was still roaring in pain because of the bullet that struck it earlier. With his high agility, Evan came before the lion in the blink of an eye and once again used Shadow Bullet, but this time Evan used 3 times more mana that he used before. A sharp-looking 2 centimeters long bullet formed at the tip of Evan's finger and he shot it at the lion. The bullet pierced through the head of the lion and destroyed its brain. Roar! With a loud painful roar, the lion stopped breathing and died. Evan looked at the lifeless body of the lion for a moment and remembered how just a few hours ago he was struggling to fight against the monsters who also possess the same strength as this lion, but just after a few hours, because of a single event, everything changed. When Evan thought how easily he killed the lion, a small smile appeared on his face. I wonder what kind of expression those arrogant students of the academy will make when they will find out about my current strength. After killing the lion, Evan looked for the core, but unfortunately, he did not find anything. Evan was not disappointed by this and once again started to walk toward the exit portal of the dungeon. This time he did not encounter any monster and safely came before the exit portal of the dungeon. Evan took a deep breath and exited the dungeon, to start a new life where he will not have to endure mocking look of others, and he can also improve his power. Looks like that kid died in the dungeon, the guard who warned Evan when he entered the dungeon said. Many ignorant people like him die every day because they overestimate themselves and enter dungeons that are higher rank than them, the other guard said while shaking his head. According to the card he showed, he was a student of Astral Hunter Academy. I wonder what they are teaching students there. You can't expect them to pay attention to every student. There are hundreds of people who awaken their ability and join the Hunter Academy. If a student overestimates himself and enter a dungeon that is high level than him, you can't blame the academy for this. I wonder if he informed his teachers that he will be entering a D-rank dungeon. The guard said, "We already know his name. We will do our duty and just inform the academy about him if he did not come out before tomorrow," the second guard said while yawning. Suddenly the entrance portal of the dungeon flashed. When both guards who were talking looked at the portal, they saw a boy in tattered clothes that were stained in blood came out from the portal. Even though the boy was wearing tattered clothes that were stained in blood, he was still looking devilishly handsome. His pitch black hair were waving because of the wind of cold night. When the guards saw Evan, they were stunned for a moment because he looked completely different than before. "Who is this guy and how he entered the dungeon without us knowing?" one of the guards asked when he saw Evan. "Idiot, he is the same F-rank student who entered some hours ago," the guard who warned Evan said, because he still remembered the face of Evan clearly. Although Evan was looking completely different than before, he was still able to recognize him. "What?" the guard shouted and looked at Evan's face carefully. "How the hell has his appearance changed this much?" he asked with a stunned look when he also recognized Evan. After coming out from the dungeon, Evan walked towards the gate of the dungeon where guards were standing. When he came near them, he nodded at them with a small smile. What happened to you?" the guard asked Evan when he came near them. Evan was confused at first, but then remembered that because of his core advancement his appearance changed quite a bit. His previous skinny body gained some muscles, and his height and charm also increased quite a bit. Basically he looks completely different than before. "I just got lucky and my core advanced to E rank, that's why my appearance changed a little," Evan said while scratching the back of his head. The guards were stunned when they heard this because they never saw someone's appearance changing this much after advancing from F rank to E rank, but they also can't find any other reason for the sudden change in Evan's appearance, so they were not able to say anything. "You are lucky that you did not die in the dungeon. Next time you should only enter a dungeon according to your rank," the guard said when he saw how Evan's clothes were tattered and were covered in blood. "Thanks for the advice, I will keep it in mind," Evan said politely and started to walk away. The guards did not stop him this time. Evan waved his hand when he saw a taxi. The taxi driver stopped near Evan. "Astral Hunter Academy, are you a student of the Hunter Academy?" the driver asked while driving towards the academy. He was not surprised by tattered clothes of Evan because they were near Shadow Kingdom dungeon and many hunters came out with tattered clothes after fighting in the dungeon. "Yes, I am in my finale year," Evan replied to the taxi driver. "I also wanted to become a hunter but wasn't able to awaken any ability." Evan did not say anything when he heard this because he already knew very few people can awaken their ability. The driver also stopped talking after this and continued to drive towards the academy. While sitting, Evan was thinking about the things that happened to him today. He was mostly confused about how he got Shadow Monarch physique after sacrificing his shadow physique, because he was sure that the person who took his physique wasn't the one who gave him this physique. "I will have to look how people can obtain a physique." Evan thought about looking into the details of how a person can obtain a physique after returning to the academy. "Although my power is even higher than a D ranker, the aura of my body is still showing the power of an E ranker." Evan's monarch core was not releasing any aura, so anyone who will see Evan will think that he is an E rank hunter. Evan was happy with this fact because he doesn't want to tell about his Shadow Monarch physique to anyone. In the details of the physique it was written that this is a forbidden physique, so Evan wanted to make sure that no one knew about it. After 2 hours he finally arrived at the academy. Evan paid the bill and exited the taxi. "I am almost out of money. I will have to sell these cores or I will not even have money to buy cup noodles," Evan said with a sigh. Enter the academy. When Evan entered the academy there were not many students because it was already nighttime and most of the students were either training in the training ground or sleeping, but there were still some students who saw Evan. He was pretty eye-catching with his handsome face and tattered clothes that were covered in blood. "Who is that guy? Is he also a student?" one male student asked when he saw Evan. "He may be a new student in the academy who forget to take extra clothes when he entered a dungeon." I think saw him somewhere before," a student said when he looked at Evan. Suddenly his eyes opened wide and he said, "Isn't he that trash Evan?" When other students heard this they all were shocked, and when they all looked at his face they were also able to recognize him because Evan is famous all over the academy for being the weakest student. What happened to him? All students were shocked seeing Evan's new appearance. Evan already expected this kind of reaction from other students, so he just ignored them and continued to walk toward his dorm room. "Evan?" But Evan stopped when someone called him from behind. A cold light flashed in Evan's deep black eyes when he heard a voice. Evan turned around and saw 4 people coming toward him. The person who just called him was a muscular man who looked like a bodybuilder and was walking in front of the other 3 men. All 4 of them were looking like third-rate villains of streets that collect protection money from people. Mike. Evan muttered the name of the muscles man when he saw him. "It is really you?" Mike said when he came near Evan. "Here he goes again. He always tries to make the life of weak students hard," a student who was watching everything said when he saw Mike and his gang called Evan. "It is his fault for being weak. If he doesn't want to get harassed by them he should work hard and increase his power," another student said without much care. "Still I feel bad for other students who get bullied by these bastards. Why don't you go there and help him if you feel bad about him?" "I would have helped him if my rank was higher than theirs. Unfortunately, all 4 of them are also D-rankers. I will be digging my own grave if I mess with them alone," the student said while shaking his head. "If you know you can't do anything then just shut your mouth and watch the show." "Are you all right? What happened to you? Your clothes are all stained in blood," Mike asked Evan after coming near him. What a good actor Evan thought when he saw how Mike was showing concern for him. If it was in past Evan would just listen to him silently without saying anything, but now that he has his monarch core that already advanced to D rank he can easily crush Mike and his friends without any effort. "I am fine, thanks for your concern. I just went to the market to buy some stuff, but when the girls saw me they all jumped on me like a hungry lioness. I had to go through a bloodbath to safely escape from them. That's why my clothes are stained in blood. Sigh, being too handsome is really troublesome," Evan said with a sigh and made a face like he just suffered from a great injustice. Mike and the others who heard what Evan said were taken aback by Evan's response, and just looked at him dumbfoundedly. "Go through a bloodbath to escape from girls? Do really want us to believe on this SHT?" This was the only thought that came to everyone's mind. Ha ha ha. Mike came out from his dazed look after hearing the laughter of the other students who were watching everything. A cold light passed through Mike's eyes when he looked at Evan, who was staring at him calmly. He was a little confused because Evan never talked back to him in past, but just now not only Evan talked back to him, he was even looking at him without any fear. "I see you have learned how to joke," Mike said with a cold smile. "Joke? What are you talking about?" Evan asked with a puzzled expression. "He is pissing him off," one student said when he saw how Evan was provoking Mike. "You piece of SHT, did you forget what happened last time when you talked back to us last time?" Lucas, one of Mike's companions, said. "Oh, I did not expect to see an orc here in the Hunter Academy. What the hell are security guards doing letting an orc enter the academy?" Evan said to Lucas when he heard him. Ha ha ha. Other students started to laugh after hearing this. Lucas was 2 meters tall and his body was unusually muscular for a human, and he really looks like an orc. "You bastard!" Lucas was about to attack Evan when Mike stopped him and looked at Evan coldly. "I don't know what happened to you, but if you don't want me to break your bones you better apologize to us when I am giving you a chance. That's my line, you morons. If you don't want me to wipe out the floor along with you all, you should better apologize to me, then I might consider letting you off," Evan said to Mike without bothering about his earlier warning. What happened to him? Why is he acting like this? Most of the students were confused when they saw how Evan was behaving. This is not the first time they saw Mike and his gang messing with Evan. In the past, whenever Mike and his gang harass him he would silently do whatever they want him to do, but they were confused what had happened to him that he was behaving like this. Ha ha ha. Mike and his gang burst into laughter when they heard what Evan said. "You want us to apologize to you? Did you hit your head or something?" Mike asked while laughing. Can't you four at least laugh like humans? I know your appearance is similar to monsters, but you guys can at least behave like humans, Evan said with an irritated voice because these muscleheads were laughing like idiots while standing in front of him. You bastard, do you think I won't kill you if we are inside the academy? Mike said while grabbing the collar of Evan's tattered shirt. Evan's expressions turned cold when Mike grabbed his collar. Remove your dirty hands if you don't want to become bedridden for the rest of your life, Evan said in a cold voice. When Mike heard this he wanted to laugh, but when he looked at the deep black eyes of Evan he suddenly felt an ominous feeling. He wanted to let go of Evan's collar and take a step back, but when he remembered how weak Evan is he discarded that feeling. Evan just looked at Mike coldly, and when he did not let go of his collar he was about to make his move when someone said, "What is going on here?" Mike quickly released the collar of Evan's shirt and took a step back after hearing the voice. Everyone looked in the direction from which the voice came and saw a girl walking toward Evan and Mike, so the class president finally appeared. One of the students who was watching said, "TCH. The show was just started to become interesting. I wanted to see what that Evan would have done after talking like this," a student said in a dissatisfied tone when he saw what happened. The girl who just appeared was the class monitor of the final year, and she is a C+ rank hunter. Her name was Valerie. Valerie had light blue hair and deep green eyes. Her skin was as white as jade. She came near Mike and Evan and asked once again, "What's going on here?" "Nothing. We were just talking among ourselves," Mike said with a nervous tone when he saw Valerie, because even if all four of them work together they will not be able to do anything to her who is already a C+ rank hunter. "Mike, I think I already warned you to not harass other students," Valerie said in cold tone when she heard what Mike said. "But we did not do anything. You can ask Evan," Mike said and looked at Evan with threatening eyes. When Evan saw how Mike was looking at him he just sneered. But he also doesn't want to involve anyone else in his matter, so he said, "Yeah, these guys were just asking me about the information about some monsters since they want to enter a dungeon. These muscleheads don't pay attention in class and now asking about it to me." Valerie was taken aback by Evan's response because in past Evan never said anything against Mike and others whenever they bullied him. Although he did not say anything against them, she was still surprised that Evan at least did not back away without saying anything. There was just one simple reason why Evan never said anything about Mike and his gang, because he was well aware of his situation. The Hunter Academy is not a place where you can go and complain to your instructor whenever you get bullied. As long as you don't cross the line, even instructors won't do anything. Valerie is the monitor of the class. If Evan complains about Mike to her, Mike and his gang will behave for some time but will harass him again after some time. Besides, Evan did not want anyone else to involve in his business. That is why even now he did not tell that Mike was picking a fight with him. "You geese should better pay attention in class next time. If not and you come to me once again to get information about the monster, you will have to pay a price that you might not be able to afford," Evan said while patting the shoulder of Mike. Mike and his gang can only look at Evan with anger-filled eyes but wasn't able to say anything in front of Valerie. "Well, since I already gave you information about the monsters, I will be on my way," Evan said and started to walk toward his dorm room. "I swear you will regret this," Mike thought while looking at Evan, who already started to walk away. "I hope you won't give me chance to use my authority as a class monitor," Valerie said, and she also left. "The show was better than I expected," a student said when he saw the sour faces of Mike and his gang. "What show?" I am sure that Evan dug his own grave by saying those things earlier. "Do you think he will be fine after saying all of those things to these guys?" another student said. Evan did not care about what other students were thinking because he was already aware that Mike will try to mess with him again, but with his current power Evan was sure that he will have no problem in taking care of Mike and his gang. Soon Evan reached his room. He first took a long bath and cleaned himself properly. While bathing, Evan was finally able to inspect his body. His body was perfectly sculptured now compared to his previous skinny build, and his height also increased by around 5 centimeters. "Is my body changed this much because of the Monarch Core? I never read anyone else's body changing this much just by advancing from F rank to D rank." Evan came out from the bath and looked at himself in the mirror. "My hair turned completely pitch black and the color of my eye pupils are also darker than before," Evan said whilst admiring himself in front of the mirror. After seeing himself in the mirror, Evan wore some clothes and made some noodles to eat. I will sell those cores tomorrow and will definitely go to a restaurant, Evan said while eating the noodles with a sour face. After eating noodles, Evan finally lies down on the bed and took out his phone to search about how a person can obtain a physique. Evan was still confused about how he got his Shadow Monarch physique, so he wanted to look on the internet about it. According to information available on the internet, there are two known ways for people to have unique physiques. First, a person can born with a unique physique. The second is when a person awakens his ability, like Evan awaken his ability at age of 14. They can awaken a unique physique along with their ability. There may be another way for people to obtain a unique physique, but there was no information on the internet apart from these two ways. When Evan read this and thought about these two ways, his eyes opened wide in shock and he finally realized something. The previous Evan was born with Shadow Physique, but he did not know about it till he awakened his ability at age of 14, because people can't see their status window before they awaken their ability. Evan was born with Shadow Physique, but after reading information about physiques on internet, Evan concluded that when he awakened his ability at age of 14, he also awakened another physique along with his ability. The physique he awakened with his ability was the Shadow Monarch physique, but since he already had Shadow Physique, a complicated issue occurred in his physique and he wasn't able to absorb any core other than Shadow Core. This also explains how he got Shadow Monarch physique after sacrificing his Shadow Physique. Since he had two physiques and he sacrificed one of them, the other physique naturally took over the entire body of Evan, and the problem of him not being able to absorb other cores was also solved. Damn, to think I suffered this much because I had two physiques is quite absurd. Evan was lost for words after realizing this, because normally there is a very low chance that a person will have a unique physique, but he was suffering all this time because he had two physiques. Of course, this was all what Evan thought. There may be other reasons why he got Shadow Monarch physique, but after reading the details on the internet, Evan was at least 80% sure in his guess. Forget it, who cares how I get this physique? I just have to think about how I can get more cores to improve the rank of my Prime Core. I want to advance my Prime Core to D rank before I absorb more energy through Monarch Core. I don't want to break my Prime Core like last time again, Evan said while putting away his phone. I don't want to enter a dungeon currently. I should take a mission from the mission hall of the academy tomorrow, Evan thought, and closed his eyes. He was pretty tired after all the things that happened to him today. The next day after breakfast, Evan came out from the boys' dormitory and went towards the mission hall. The mission hall is the place where students of the Hunter Academy can take different types of missions and earn mission points. There are many types of missions available in the mission hall of the academy. Most of these missions are issued by normal people who are not hunters. These missions are not very dangerous because most of the missions are for the purpose of training the students and teach them. Evan came before a two-story building. There were many students who were entering and exiting the building. Evan went inside the building and saw many receptions. Students were talking with the receptionist and choosing the most suitable mission for them. Evan also went towards a male receptionist. When Evan came near the receptionist, he asked, "How can I help you? Is there any D-rank mission?" Evan asked the receptionist after coming near him, "Can you show me your hunter card provided by the academy?" The receptionist asked because he can show him the mission only after confirming his rank. Evan gave his hunter card to the receptionist, but when the receptionist saw Evan was an F-rank hunter, he looked at Evan weirdly and said, "Sorry, but with your current rank I can't show you D-rank missions. It will be very dangerous for you, and even the person who issued the mission may face problems because of this." "I understand, but I already advanced to E rank. I just didn't update my card because I was busy. And according to the rules I can accept missions that are one rank higher than me, right?" Evan said calmly when he heard what the receptionist said. "Can you please place your hand on this orb so I can confirm your rank?" The receptionist took out a white orb size of a football and placed it in front of Evan. Evan was already aware about this orb. This orb can show your rank when you place your hand on it. Evan was not sure how it worked, but according to the book, the orb will react to the energy of his Prime Core and will show its current rank. Evan placed his hand on the ranking orb and he felt a strange energy entering his body through the orb. The energy went towards his prime core, and after rotating around his prime core, the energy once again returned to the orb. When the energy returned back, the orb lit up and showed a word in green color. When the receptionist saw this, he put away the orb and said, "Alright, I can show you the D-rank missions, please wait a moment." The receptionist took out some papers, and after filtering out the D-rank missions which were suitable for Evan, he gave him some papers. Evan took the papers and looked at the missions. / bring the 5 teeth of a fire saber-tooth tiger. Reward 15 mission points. / kill the members of the Hawk Bandit group. Reward 15 mission points. / collect 5 stalks of moon grass from the night forest. Reward 20 mission points. / kill goblins near the stellar region. Reward 15 mission points. / bring ... There were many missions, and the most of the missions were given a reward of 15 mission points. Evan can use these mission points to buy weapons, potions, cores, and many more things from the academy. The rank 2 invisibility potion that Evan bought with 30,000 credits can be bought with 50 mission points. Evan looked at many missions but did not find any mission to his liking, but suddenly Evan saw a mission and stopped. / safely transport the goods to Oklahoma City from Astrate City. Reward 20 mission points. Oklahoma City, if I am not wrong, you have to go through Wild Region to reach there. I will have to face many monsters who live in the wilderness if I choose this mission, Evan thought when he read about the details of the mission. Evan thought about some time and finally chooses this mission. I would like to accept this mission, Evan said while giving the paper to the receptionist. Are you sure? Although this is a D-rank mission, the difficulty is very high. There are many D-rank monsters in the wild region, the receptionist said when he saw which mission Evan selected. Yes, I am sure. Can you give the details of this mission? The receptionist did not say anything after hearing Evan and looked at his computer for the details of the mission. After looking at the details of the mission, the receptionist printed the details and gave it to Evan. Evan looked at the details and raised an eyebrow. There will be 3 more hunters aside from me, and the mission will start tomorrow. Evan did not expect that there will be more hunters aside from him, but when he thought about it carefully, he realized that it is only natural that there will be more hunters, because in the wild region there are many monsters and one hunter can't take care of everything alone unless he is a very high rank hunter. Let's go to market for buying some things that will help me in this mission, Evan thought, and after thanking the receptionist he left the mission hall. Evan did not go back to his room. Instead he left the academy, and after taking a taxi he came to the city plaza once again, where he bought the invisibility potion last time. Evan came here to sell the cores that he saved after killing the monsters in the Shadow Kingdom dungeon. Evan went inside the plaza and after taking the lift went to the 10th floor where people sell and buy cores. Evan comes to the 10th floor of the plaza, and unlike the 7th floor where potions are being sold, there were very few people on this floor because rarely anyone sell monster cores. Evan went towards one of the receptionists. When the receptionist saw Evan, he asked him politely, "How can I help you?" Evan took out 4 shadow cores and said, "I want to sell these shadow cores." The receptionist's eyes lit up when he saw 4 shadow cores. "Sure, we can offer you 30,000 credits for each shadow core." Before coming here, Evan already checked the price of the cores on the internet and he was satisfied with the price that the receptionist offered, so he sold the cores and received 120,000 credits. After selling the cores, Evan went to the 7th floor and bought some healing and mana potions because there is a high chance that he can get injured during his mission. After buying some potions, Evan left the plaza and went to buy some food items and other things for travel. When he was done with everything, it was already evening. "I should eat in a restaurant today since I will be going on a mission tomorrow." Evan went to one of the best restaurants in Astrate City. After eating, Evan went back to the academy to rest early since tomorrow he will be leaving for Oklahoma City. The next day Evan took a taxi and went towards the city gate where he will meet with the other 3 hunters and the merchant who issued the mission. Evan never left Astrate City, so he doesn't know the exact situation outside the city, but according to information he gathered on the internet, leaving a city is pretty dangerous because there are many monsters outside the cities. In Aurora World, most of the cities are protected by a barrier that prevents any monsters to come near them. but when someone leaves a city they lose the protection of this barrier and have to protect themselves against the monster with their own power. Most of the merchants who have to travel from one city to another to sell their goods, issue missions in hunter associations to hire some hunters for their protection. The Hunter Association work with the Academy and provide some low-danger mission to students for training purposes. Evan was more concerned about the other hunters who will join him in this mission. He knew that these hunters will be from the Hunter Association and will be pretty powerful. It should be fine according to the details of the missions. All three of them will also be D-rank hunters. Even if something happened I should be able to take care of them, although they all have to work together and transport the goods to the Oklahoma City safely. Evan was well aware that humans are more dangerous than the monsters in this world. Soon Evan arrived at the city gate where he was supposed to meet with the other hunters and the merchant. Evan saw some vehicles at the city gate. These vehicles were like a van, but most of them were 5 to 10 meters long. All of these vans are created by using science and magic. The vans are powered by monster cores and there are even barriers that protect the van from monsters. Let's see, where is van number 90? After reaching its city gate, Evan looked around for the van he has to protect. After 5 minutes Evan finally found the van number 90. This van was 10 meters long and was made from black steel like metal. There were some weapons installed in the van and it looks like a future vehicle if compared to the vehicles of modern Earth. Evan saw a middle-aged man was standing near the van, the man probably Henry who issued the mission, Evan thought when he saw a middle-aged man dressed in a business suit. "Hi, are you Evan?" the middle-aged man asked when he saw Evan coming towards him. "Yes, I am. Can you show me your hunter card?" Evan showed Henry his hunter card, which was showing he is an E-rank hunter. The receptionist in the mission hall updated his rank yesterday when he went to pick the mission. After checking Evan's card he nodded. "You are the first to arrive. Others should be here soon. It will take us 2 days to reach Oklahoma City, right?" Evan asked Henry while waiting for others hunters to arrive. "Yes, is this your first time going out of the city?" Henry asked Evan. "Yeah. I never left the asteroid city. It will be my first time going out of the city. You don't have to worry too much. Most of the high-rank monsters are cleared by hunter associations every month. We will not face any monster who is higher than D rank during our journey," Henry said when he heard Evan never left the city. After 5 minutes Evan saw 2 men coming towards them. Both of them were D rank hunters, so these are the hunters from association. Evan looked at the hunters carefully. Both of them were around 30 years old and looks quite experienced. "Hello, I am George and he is Dean," said one of the hunters when they came near Henry. "Hello, I am Henry. Can you guys show your hunter card?" Here both George and Dean showed their hunter card to Henry. When he confirmed their identity he nodded. "All right, we will leave as soon as the last hunter arrives." "Oh, looks like he is here." Ethan looked at the last hunter who was coming towards them and was surprised because the last hunter who came was also the hunter from the academy. James. Evan remembered the name of this hunter because just like Evan he is also an orphan and the Mike and his gang often try to bully him. James is not a sociable person and doesn't talk to anyone in the academy, so Evan doesn't know much about him. "Are you James?" Henry asked when James arrived near them. James nodded and handed his hunter card to Henry. After checking his hunter card Henry nodded and said, "Now that everyone is here we should leave. First, I am Henry. Your mission is to protect me and my cargo till we reach Oklahoma City and came back to Asteroid City. We will be taking the route that is cleared by the Hunter Association every month, so we will not meet any monster who is higher than D rank. Any questions?" Nobody asked anything. When Henry saw this he nodded. "Okay, let's depart." Then the van was divided into 3 parts. Henry went to the first part where the driver of the van was sitting this whole time. In the second part, the goods that Evan and the hunters have to protect were placed, and the third part was the largest where all 4 hunters went to sit. After everyone sat down the driver started the van and left Asteroid City. "Since we will be working with each other till this mission end, let's introduce ourselves. I am George, a D-rank hunter." One of the hunters who came from the association said. "I am Dean. I am also a D-rank hunter." James. D-rank. James said with a flat voice. "I am Evan, an E-rank hunter." Evan said without much interest. Everyone were surprised after hearing Evan's rank, but the most surprised person was obviously James, because everyone in the academy knows that Evan is an F-rank hunter. You are quite brave to take a mission like this when you are just an E-rank hunter, Dean said after hearing Evan's rank. You can say that, Evan replied to Dean with a light smile. You are from the academy, right? You must be quite famous in the academy with this kind of face, George said with a jealous voice when he saw the handsome face of Evan. When Evan heard this, his eyes twitched. Yeah, I'm pretty famous in the academy, Evan said, because everyone in the academy knows about him. After all, he got the title of the weakest hunter in the academy. So, what do we have to do? This is my first time doing a mission like this. I am sure with the speed of the van and the emergency barrier, Henry can safely reach Oklahoma without our help, Evan asked with a confused voice, because at first, he thought that the speed of the van will be very slow and they will have to protect it against monsters. But looking at the speed of van, Evan was sure that even a rank D monster will have a hard time catching up with the van. Oh, it's your mission. Well, this senior will give a brief summary, then Dean said with an old man-like expression. It will take us 2 days to reach our destination, and they can't drive continuously for 2 days. They will eventually stop for taking rest, and at that time there is a high chance that the monsters will attack them. Monster is one thing, but there are also bandits who rob merchants whenever they get any chance. These bandits are more dangerous than monsters because unlike monsters, they can use tools that can negate the barrier and other functions of this van. Evan was surprised and at the same time a bit concerned that they might have to face a bandit who is higher than D rank, but after hearing the next words of Dean, Evan relaxed. Although these bandits are dangerous, you will not find anyone who is higher than D rank, since the association clears these areas every month, and it's not impossible for monsters to catch up with us even when we are going at pretty fast speed. There are some monsters like Sky Eagle and Forest Tigers who can easily catch up to us with their speed, George added when Dean finished his explanation. Evan nodded and understood what they have to do during the mission. Everyone stopped talking after this. George and Dean closed their eyes and did not say anything. James was sitting like a mute. He did not say anything after introducing himself to George and Dean. Evan was looking outside from the window with a bored look, but suddenly Evan saw someone was following them. Evan looked carefully and saw 5 monsters were chasing the van. Their speed was also quite fast and they looked like hyenas. All 5 monsters were 2 meters tall and their fur was light brown. There are 5 monsters who are chasing us, Evan said while looking outside the window. Dean opened his eye and looked outside. These are wild hyenas. Although they are fast, they will not be able to catch us. Evan nodded when he heard this, because he can also see that the speed up hyenas was getting slow as time passes, because unlike van that runs with the help of cause, the monsters were spending their stamina to catch them. If you are bored, you can look outside. Using that, Evan heard George's voice, who was pointing his finger towards the roof of the van. When Evan looked at the roof of the van, he saw a slider there. Evan stood up and pushed the slider forward, and brought his head outside the roof of the van. The barrier of the van was currently deactivated to save energy. Only when the monster came near the van did they activate the barrier. Evan felt the cold wind of the morning when he brought his head outside the van. The air is quite fresh here, Evan said while enjoying the cold wind. Evan was enjoying the view when he suddenly saw another group of hyenas start to chase after them. When Evan saw this, he first looked at James and the other hunters to confirm that they were not looking outside. When he confirmed they were not looking outside, a smile appeared on Evan's face. Since I am getting bored, I should practice with Shadow Bullet. Evan pointed his finger towards one of the hyenas who was chasing after them. Shadow Bullet. A pitch-black small bullet formed before the pointed finger of Evan and shot toward one of the hyenas at lightning speed. Swish! The bullet arrived before the hyena in a blink of an eye and pierced through its forehead, but Evan did not use much mana in the bullet, so it wasn't able to pierce too deep, but the running hyena still dropped to the ground when the bullet struck it. Howl! The blinding effect of Shadow Bullet activated. Your target is blinded for 2 seconds. Evan was surprised when even the blinding effect of his Shadow Bullet activated. Shadow Bullet. You can shoot a bullet made of shadow by using mana. The power of the bullet depends on how much mana you use to cast it. There is a 5% chance that the defender will become blind for 2 seconds after being hit by Shadow Bullet. The hyena howled in pain when the bullet struck it. Because of the loud howl, George and others quickly looked outside. What happened? Dean asked while looking at Evan, since he was the only one who was looking outside. Nothing. That hyena suddenly fell while running and crashed against a rock, Evan replied without looking at them. When Dean and the others heard this, they all stopped looking outside and closed their eyes once again. I completely forget that they will definitely make a loud sound after getting hurt, Evan said while sighing in relief. Evan did not use his shadow bullet again, and after 6 hours of continuous travel, the driver finally stopped the van to take some rest. Let's take a short break here, Henry said to Evan and the other hunters after stopping the van. Evan and I will stay here to protect the Henry and the cargo. You two should scout our surroundings, George said to James and Dean after coming out from the van. All right, Dean said, and went to scout their surroundings along with James. What kind of monsters can attack us here? Evan asked while guarding the cargo. There are many types of monsters that you can encounter here, but most of them will be around E rank, and if I am not wrong there is a pond not so far away from here, so there is a high possibility that we can encounter water-type monsters here, George said while looking at their surroundings carefully. James and Dean returned after 20 minutes. We scouted 200 meters around us. There were just some E-rank monsters. We took care of them without any problems, Dean said after coming back. It is good. If nothing goes wrong, we should be able to leave from here without facing any monster, George said after hearing Dean. Hey, guys, lunch is ready. Come here. Evan and others heard Henry's voice, who was eating a steak cooked by the driver of the van. Henry and he set up a small barbecue stand and were grilling some meat on it. Are they here for picnic? Evan thought with a speechless expression when he saw Henry and his driver doing a barbecue in this wilderness. You two go and eat first, we will keep watching till you finish, George said to James and Dean since they were just come back after scouting their surroundings. Evan and George kept watching their surroundings for monsters until Dean and James came back after eating. Is transportation missions are supposed to be this easy? Evan asked while eating. Nope. Most of the time you will have to face monsters whenever you stop in the wilderness. I am surprised that no monster comes to bother us even though we are here for more than 1 hour, George said while eating a large chunk of meat. Howl, howl, howl. Looks like I jinxed it, George said with a speechless look. Just as George finished speaking, everyone heard howls of wolves. Get ready to fight, a pack of wolves is coming towards us, they will be here in 20 seconds, Dean shouted after hearing the howls. You geese go inside the van, we will take care of these monsters, George said to Henry and the driver, who quickly already rushed towards the van after hearing the howls. Wolf, how many other Dean? George asked after he and Devon came back near the van along with Dean and James. If I am not wrong there should be 3 wolves, Dean said while holding his sword. Is this his ability? Evan thought to himself when Dean was able to tell how many wolves will be attacking them. You two can take care of 1 wolf, George said to Evan and James. Dean and I will take out the other 2. Evan and James nodded and did not say anything. Even if there are more than 3 it should be no problem for me to take care of them, Evan thought while looking in the direction from which they heard the howl. After 20 seconds Evan finally saw 3 wolves coming towards them with rapid speed. The wolves were 2 meters tall and their fur was completely green. All 3 wolves were looking at them with their deep yellow eyes which were filled with bloodlust. Be careful while fighting against them. They are winder wolves, and their agility and reaction speed is quite fast. If you gave them even a single opportunity they will not miss it, Dean said to everyone after seeing the wolves. After seeing the wolves, Evan extended his hand forward and a sword shot out from his shadow that he caught without any problem. What the hell was that? George, who was standing near Evan, asked when suddenly a sword came out from the ground. Just one of my skills, Evan replied while looking at the sword. Dude, at least tell me before if you are going to do something like this. I thought there are bandits who attacked us by taking advantage of the situation, George said while shaking his head. Anyone will be scared if a sword suddenly came out from the ground. James was holding a spear which was surrounded in purple lightning. George was using a long sword and Dean was the only one who was barehanded. Let's kill these bastards so I can eat my lunch, George said, and was about to charge towards the wolves when he heard haste, swish. With a swift motion, Evan, who was standing beside him, disappeared, and when he looked towards the three wolves, George saw Evan suddenly appear one of the wolves and slashed his sword at the neck of the wolf. Evan's sword was shining in light blue color, which means he was using mana to increase the power of his attack. The speed of Evan was too fast when he slashed the sword, so George and others were not able to see his slash clearly. They just saw Evan moving his hand a little while holding the sword. Thud. The next second the eyes of James and others popped out from their sockets when they saw the head of the wolf who was standing in front of Evan was severed cleanly and it dropped to the ground lifelessly. The entire area became dead silent when everyone saw what just happened. "What the hell I just saw?" Dean asked with a dumbfounded voice when he saw how a D-rank monster was killed with just a single strike, and the shocking thing was that since Evan used mana while killing the wolf, they all can tell from his aura that he is still an E-rank hunter. What the hell happened? Evan thought when he saw how easily he killed a D-rank monster. Is a D-rank monster supposed to be this weak? Evan was shocked that he was able to sever the head of a D-rank beast with a normal sword. Evan looked at the sword in his hand, which was still shining in blue light because of his mana, and noticed a very thin black layer along with the blue layer of mana. The black layer was very thin. Evan was sure that if his eyesight did not improve after he got Monarch Core, he would not have noticed this black layer. Is my attack was this powerful because of this black energy that is mixed in my mana? Evan thought when he saw the thin black layer. Howl. Be careful! Evan came out from his dazed state after hearing the shout of Dean. When Evan looked at the other two wolves, he saw one of them was already in front of him and was slashing at his neck with its front claw. Evan was still using haste skill, so he saw everything in slow motion. He lifted his sword and parried the claw of the wolf with his sword. Evan was pushed back a little because of the running momentum of the wolf. Before the wolf can regain its balance after its failed attack, Evan slashed his sword at the shoulder blade of the wolf. Howl. The wolf howled in pain when its shoulder was almost severed from the rest of its body. A fountain of blood erupted from the wounded shoulder of the wolf. Watch out! Evan was about to attack the wolf once again when he heard George shout, and without hesitation, he jumped sideways. Just as Evan jumped sideways, a green blade passed by his previous location and hit a tree that was not so far away from him. The tree was served in two when the blade hit it. Cold sweat appeared on Evan's back. When he saw this, I should pay more attention to my surroundings while fighting, Evan thought when he was almost done by because of ignoring the second wolf. Just what the hell is going on? From his aura I can clearly feel this guy is an E-rank hunter, so how can he fight against these D-rank monsters like this? Dean said with a shock-filled voice. Hey, you guys are from the same academy, do you know what is going on? George asked James, who was looking at Evan with his mouth wide open. George and Dean don't know Evan, but James was well aware that Evan is the weakest student in the academy and everyone call him trash. Just what happened to this guy? James asked himself when he saw Evan taking care of D-rank monsters like he was playing with them. Just a few days ago I saw how Mike and some other students were bullying him. Was he pretending all this time? Hey, are you listening? James comes out from his thoughts after hearing Dean's voice. I never talked to him in the academy, so I don't know about him. James did not tell them about Evan since he was also not sure what was happening here. After evading the wind blade, Evan looked at the wolf who attacked him and charged toward it with an agility that was much faster than a D-rank hunter. Since the wind wolf was an agility-based monster, it was somehow able to see Evan when he appeared before it. The wolf used its front claw and smashed it at Evan like a hammer, but instead of dodging the claw, Evan used his sword to clash with the claw of wolf. Punchy. When Evan's sword, which was covered in a blue layer of mana, clashed with the wolf's claw, it cut it into like a hot knife cutting the butter. Howl. The wolf howled in pain, and even before it can do anything, Evan once again slashed his sword at the neck of the wolf. Evan wasn't able to sever the neck of the wolf with a single attack this time, but he once again slashed and severed the head of the wolf. After killing it, Evan looked at the ramming wolf who was trying to stand up but failed miserably because its shoulder was almost severed from Evan's earlier attack. Evan walked towards the wolf calmly and killed it with a single slash. James and others looked at Evan like they were looking at a monster. Evan ignored them and started to look for cause. Unfortunately, Evan got only one cow from 3 wolves. Evan dropped the core and his sword on the ground, and both things suddenly disappeared after touching the ground. Evan put them inside his shadow storage. Evan was not thinking about sharing his cores with anyone because in the details of the mission it was written that you can keep the cores of the monster that you hunted on your own. After taking care of everything, Evan calmly walked toward George and the others. "Who are you?" Dean asked Evan when he came near them. "Didn't I already tell you I'm an E-rank hunter?" "Evan, E-rank my ass, even a D-rank hunter can't kill those monsters like this," George said while looking at Evan. "I just have some skills that improve my fighting power for some time," Evan said without explaining much. "Oh, what kind of skill can improve your power by 2 ranks?" Dean asked in a sarcastic voice. "I don't think I have any reason to tell you geese about my skills," Evan said with an irritated voice because he was starting to feel irritated by their questions. "Yeah, you don't have to tell us about your skills, but since we are going to work as a team you should at least inform us that you can easily face a D-rank monster." Dean did not back away and continued to say, "Oh, if an E-rank hunter came before you and say, 'Hey, I can kill D-rank monsters easily,' will you believe him?" Evan said while rolling his eyes. When Dean heard this he wanted to say something but nothing came out of his mouth because he knew that he would never believe in that person. "Sigh, I am sorry I overreacted," Dean said after hearing what Evan said. "Don't worry, I can understand and I have no intention of harming you guys in any way," Evan said while going towards the barbecue table where he was eating his lunch. James looked at Evan while lost in his own thoughts. Meanwhile George and Dean were also thinking about something. Evan did not care about them because he never thought about hiding his power from the beginning. His main purpose to come on this mission was to take a break after 2 years and collect some cores if possible. If he hides his power, how he will be able to collect some cores? "I hope I will be able to get enough cores to advance my prime to E+ rank," Evan thought while eating a steak. "I never saw an E-rank hunter as powerful as you," Henry said to Evan. He already came out from the van along with his driver after Evan took care of the monsters. "Thanks," Evan said without much interest. Only Henry was talking with Evan. Dean and George, who were previously talking to Evan casually, now looking at him warily. Evan also understands their situation. If he was in their place he would also feel suspicious if someone who is an E-rank killed 3 D-rank monsters without breaking a sweat, but currently, Evan could not care less about them because he was thinking about the thin black layer that appeared on his sword earlier. Just what was that black energy? The power of my attack increased too much because of that. Evan already checked his status window and there was no information about that black energy. Is this also related to my monarch core? Evan thought while eating an apple. Forget it, there are too many things that I don't know about this monarch core. I will eventually figure out everything, Evan thought, and stopped thinking about that black energy. "When will we leave from here?" Evan asked Henry. "Let's rest for 1 more hour before leaving." "All right," Evan nodded and continued to guard their surroundings. Evan was feeling quite awkward because after seeing his strength other hunters were looking at him warily. "I bet they must be thinking I was hiding my strength to backstab them later and rob their belongings," Evan thought while rubbing his temples. "All right, let's go, we still have to cover quite a distance," Henry shouted while his driver packed the barbecue and other equipments. After 5 minutes everyone sat down in the van and it started moving toward Oklahoma City. "Look, I know why you guys are being suspicious, and looking at me like this, but I have no intentions of harming you. So stop looking at me like you are looking at your lifelong enemy," Evan said to others after the van started to move once again. Dean and George were hesitating a bit after hearing Evan. When Evan saw this he just sighed and did not say anything. "Although I did not talk to him in the academy, I can say that he is a good person, so you should stop being suspicious of him, or we might get in danger while facing other monsters." Suddenly everyone heard James's voice, who was sitting with his eyes closed. When George and Dean heard this they looked at each other and nodded. "All right, we will trust you, but I hope you won't do anything suspicious." "Don't worry, I just wanted to take a break from the academy and collect some cores. I don't have any other motive to come here." "Collect some cores? With your strength you can easily collect cores from a D-rank dungeon," Dean said when he heard Evan. My situation is a bit complicated, so don't mind me, Evan said without explaining much. After all, he can't say that 2 days ago he was just an F-rank hunter who can't even increase his power because of his physique. James heard everything quietly but did not say anything. By the way, I saw you using 2 skills when you were fighting against those monsters. Did you get a skill book in the past after clearing a dungeon, or you awaken 2 skills at the same time? George asked curiously to change the atmosphere. Dean and James also looked at Evan curiously because it is very rare for people to have more than 1 skill. You can get a skill book as a reward after clearing a dungeon, but it is extremely rare and can be sold for thousands of credits depending on what kind of skill you are selling. Dean and George, who are normal hunters, can't even imagine buying a skill book. Yeah, I got lucky last time when I cleared a dungeon and received a skill book, Evan said with a light smile. There is no way he is going to tell anyone he can get skills just by absorbing the energy of the cause. He knew his life will be in danger if other people know about his physique, which can basically turn the evolving system of Herrera's world upside down. That's why Evan did not use his Shadow Bullet skill during the fight, since it will be suspicious if he used too many skills. I also cleared some dungeons with my friends, but we never received a skill book, Dean said in an envious tone after hearing Evan. Both Dean and George believed on Evan that he got his skill from the dungeon. Only James was looking at him suspiciously because, just like everyone in the academy, he also knew that Evan never went into a dungeon with anyone. But even if he was suspicious, he can't do anything. The rest of the day passed without any problems, and soon the sun was about to set. Let's make a camp here since the sun is about to set. Everyone heard Henry's voice and no one objected because it will be quite hard to make a camp if the sun set down. The van stopped moving and everyone came out from it. You two guard here, Evan, and I will check our surroundings, George said to Dean and James after coming out from the van. Be careful, it will be dangerous since it already started to get dark, George said to Evan seriously. Evan nodded after hearing this, but he was not bothered by this because even in the darkness he was able to see clearly thanks to his monarch core, and he even felt like he can see better during the night time. Truly a monarch physique, Evan thought when he saw how he was able to see in low light without any problems. Evan and George were looking around their surroundings. They were around 100 meters away from each other, so they can cover more area and help each other if something happens. Evan was holding his sword in his hand and was looking at his surroundings carefully. Although he was strong, he knew he will be done for if he become arrogant and did not pay attention to his surroundings. Suddenly Evan heard the sound of someone coming towards him and looked at his right side. Just as Evan looked at his right side, a rabbit jumped out from the bushes. The rabbit looks normal in size, but what made it different from normal rabbits was the horn that was coming out from its head. A horned rabbit. Evan was surprised when he saw this rabbit because they are pretty rare. According to what Evan read on internet, the meat of horned rabbits is quite delicious, but it is very hard to catch them because they are experts in escaping. Evan quickly pointed his finger toward the horned rabbit and shot a shadow bullet toward it. Since the rabbit was just an E-rank monster, it wasn't able to dodge the bullet and died on the spot when the bullet pierced through its brain. Looks like I will finally be able to taste how the horned rabbit tastes like, Evan said and picked up the horned rabbit. What is that? George asked Evan when he saw Evan was holding something in his hand. Horned rabbit. I heard they taste great, Evan said while handing the rabbit to George. Yeah, I also heard they taste great, but why are you giving me this? I don't know how to cook, Evan said while walking back towards James and Dean, who were guarding the van, and Henry. Do I look like a chef? George thought while following Evan. George gave the rabbit to the driver who was in charge of cooking their food. When the driver saw the horned rabbit, he was ecstatic because he also never ate the horned rabbit. Since there were 6 people, the driver made a rabbit stew. When Evan tasted the stew, he really wanted to cry from happiness. It's 100 times, no 1,000 times better than cup noodles, although it's a shame after eating cup noodles for 2 years Evan's food standards were really low, and he can only compare other food items with the cup noodles. I will keep the first watch. You guys can take some rest, Evan said after everyone ate their dinner. Alright, I will take a shift with you, George said. Thus Dean and James went back into the van to sleep. The van was quite big and Henry and his driver were also sleeping in the van. They just made a campfire but did not set up a camp because it is quite dangerous for Henry and his driver to sleep outside in case they have to face a monster attack at night, and they were not able to go back in the van at right time, because it was night. George was having problem seeing clearly. Although D-rank hunters have better eyesight than normal humans and can see in the dark somewhat, it was still difficult for George to see his surroundings clearly. The only source of light around them was the campfire that was burning not so far away from their van. Evan was looking at his surroundings with a bored look. Since he can see in darkness clearly, he was not bothered by the darkness. Evan and George continued to stand guard and paid full attention to their surroundings. After 4 hours, Dean and James came out of the van. "You guys can go now, we will stand guard," Dean said while stretching his body. Evan went into the van and lay down while covering himself in a blanket that he took out from his storage ring. Evan was quite tired after all the work he did, so he fell asleep just after laying down. "Wake up, we are under attack." Evan wasn't able to sleep for long because just after 1 hour he fell asleep. He heard the shout of Dean. George also woke up along with Henry and his driver. Evan and George quickly came out from the van. When Evan came out from the van, he did not see any monster nearby. "Dude, why are you shouting? I can't see any monster here." "They will be here soon," Dean said with a grave voice. When Evan heard this, he remembered how Dean was able to sense the wolves earlier even before they arrived near them. "How many are there?" George asked seriously when he heard the grave voice of Dean. "I don't know, but there are at least 20. What?" George was shocked when he heard the number of monsters. "Are you sure?" George asked once again to confirm he heard that right. Dean didn't say anything and just looked in front of them. Others also looked in direction Dean was looking. Evan don't know if Dean was able to see in darkness, but just as he looked in front of them he saw a horde of monsters running toward them. The monsters were 100 meters away from them when Evan noticed them. When Evan saw the monsters, he was taken aback for a moment, but then he shook his head and said, "Don't worry. All of these monsters are just T-rank." Dean and others who were looking in front of them seriously were taken aback by Evan's words, and before they can ask anything, the horde of monsters came before them, and others were also able to see all monsters were just T-rank. "I almost got a heart attack earlier when you said there were 20 monsters," George said while signing in relief. "Let's take care of them quickly," George said and dashed towards the incoming monster horde with his long sword in his hand. James also took action and charged toward monsters with his spear that was covered in purple lighting. Evan and Dean stayed behind to protect the van from any monsters. George came before a horse who was rushing towards them and swung his long sword at the horse without using mana. The muscles of George bulged out, and like a hot knife passing through the butter, he cut the horse in 2 parts with a single slash. "Damn. That sword must be quite expensive," Evan thought with an envious look when he looked at the long sword of George. Evan looked at the shabby sword in his hand that he took from the training ground of the academy, and his eyes twitched. "I will buy a good weapon after earning some money." Crackle. Evan heard the sound of lighting and looked at James, who just stabbed a panda-type monster. Just as James stabbed the panda with his spear, it released thunder arcs and charred the panda like a coal. Is his skill related to thunder, or that spear is special? Evan wondered when he saw the thunder arc around James and his spear. Suddenly a tiger-like beast jumped above George and came running towards in Evan's direction. When Evan saw this, he moved forward, and with his superior agility, he was able to kill the tiger with a swift motion. "It's strange," Evan heard Dean mumbling to himself. "What is strange?" Evan asked him after killing the tiger. "I'm not sure, but I felt like these monsters are running away from someone." "Why are you saying this?" Evan asked while raising an eyebrow. "I am working as a hunter for more than 5 years, but I never saw so many different types of monsters attacking someone in a group. I mean, I have fought against a larger monster horde than this, but all of those monsters were the same type. But here all of these monsters are of different types. There is tiger, horse, bear. It is like instead of attacking us, they are running away from someone." When Evan heard this, he also looked at the monster horde seriously and noticed that even though George and Dean were killing monsters, no one was attacking them. All monsters were trying to get past them like they were afraid of something and wanted to run away from here as soon as possible. Suddenly Dean's face changed and he said, I can feel two more presences that are coming towards us. You geese, stop attacking! Evan quickly shouted towards James and George after hearing what Dean just said. They are running away from someone. They are not here to attack us. Don't waste your strength while fighting against them. George and James did not understand what Evan was trying to say, but they still stopped attacking and backed away from the monsters. The monsters did not attack Evan and the others and just run past them like something was chasing them. What the hell is going on? George asked when he saw all monsters were running away from them. Two more presences are coming towards us. I am not sure, but if I am not wrong, these all monsters are running away from these two presences that are coming towards us, Dean said with a grave voice. If all of these E-rank monsters are running away from them, they are at least D-rank. James, who did not speak this entire time, said in a serious voice, I just hope they are not C-rank monsters, Evan thought while getting ready to fight. Soon Evan and others were able to hear the sound of heavy footsteps that were approaching them. Ethan focused on the direction from which all monsters came. After 10 seconds Evan finally saw two humanoid figures coming towards them. They were still 100 meters away from them, so others were not able to see them. They were only able to hear the sound of footsteps. Evan was the only one who was able to see them clearly. Evan saw the 2-3 meters tall humanoid monsters, with long horns coming out from their head, dark black skin, and one deep red eye at the center of their face coming towards them. At first, Evan did not recognize the monster, but when he finally identified the monster, his eyes opened wide. What the hell? How can black ogres can be here? When others heard what Evan said, they looked at him with shocked faces, and before they can ask anything, the two black ogres arrived near them. When others saw the hideous-looking 3 meters tall monsters, their face turned pale white. No wonder those monsters were running away like that, Dean said after regaining his composure. Everyone here was an experienced hunter except Evan, so they quickly came out from their shock state. It's good these black ogres are still D+ rank, George said, while holding his long sword tightly. Even if they are D+ rank, it will be very hard for us to kill them, James said. Even he was looking at the black ogres with a serious face. Black ogres are one of the most dangerous monsters. It was because of their abnormal skills and innate ability. Every black ogre possesses the innate ability called devouring. With the help of this ability, they can devour any life forms and increase their power. Unlike humans who need cause to improve their power, black ogres can devour any life forms and increase their strength. The reason other monsters were running away from these ogres was also because of this ability. If you get caught by these black ogres, you will receive a very painful and slow death where you will be eaten alive by these monsters. Although these black ogres are still D+ rank, even C rank hunters struggle when they fight against this monster because its defense is very high. On top of that, these monsters possess skill regeneration, so even if you injure them, they will quickly heal because of this skill. If this was any other monster, Evan and others will not be this worried, but the black ogre is a completely different matter. When Evan saw the black ogre, he was not sure about defeating them because of their abnormal defense and regeneration skill, but Evan was at least sure that his life will not be in danger because the agility of black ogres are very low, so he can always run away from here if he wasn't able to kill them. I will take care of one of them. You geese took out another one, Evan said to George and the others. No one objected to what Evan said because they already saw how Evan was able to kill 3D rank monsters all by himself earlier. Evan ran a little far away from the van and threw a stone towards one of the black ogres. When the stone hit the ogre, it looked in Evan's direction and walked towards him. The second ogre did not go towards Evan and continued to go towards George and others. All right. I hope this shabby sword will be able to pass through the tough defense of this black ogre, Evan thought while holding his sword that was covered in light blue mana. Krullik, the black ogre made a strange sound when it came near Evan. Sorry, but I didn't learn the ogre language in the academy, Evan said while charging toward the black ogre. The ogre was 3 meters tall, so Evan looked like a child who was running towards an adult. When the black ogre saw Evan coming towards it, it lifted its hand and tried to crush Evan while using its hand like a hammer. Evan jumped up and dodged the attack of the ogre while slashing at its arm with his sword. Because of its low agility, the ogre wasn't able to defend itself and was struck by the sword. Ka! The ogre screamed in pain when a deep wound appeared on its arm. Evan was shocked when he saw the wound because earlier when he fought against the wolves he was able to behead them with a single slash, and here he wasn't even able to cut off the arm of Ogre as expected. Its defense is in a completely different league compared to other monsters. Griak, the ogre shouted, and suddenly the deep wound on its arm started to heal at incredible speed. Damn, its regeneration skill will be a pain in the ass. Evan cursed when he saw how the wound of the ogre started to heal. Suddenly the eye of the ogre lit up and Evan felt a sense of crisis. Without hesitation, Evan backed away from the ogre and activated his haste skill to increase his agility even more. Just as Evan backed away, a deep red laser-like beam shot out from the eye of the ogre. Evan quickly jumped sideways to dodge the beam and saw how the beam penetrated many trees. If I didn't back away on time and used haste skill, I would have been hit by that beam, Evan thought while gulping down his saliva. After using the beam, the ogre closed its eye for a moment. When Evan saw this, he quickly charged toward the ogre and arrived near its right leg in a blink of an eye. Evan slashed at the right leg of the ogre with his sword. Swish, dark black blood spurted out from the leg of the ogre where Evan just slashed. But he did not stop the shadow bullet. Evan used a shadow bullet at the same place where he just slashed with his sword. Pucky eye. The bullet pierced deep inside the leg of the ogre and a fountain of black blood came out from its leg. Ka-ua. The ogre screamed in pain when the shadow bullet pierced deep inside its leg. Evan was about to attack the ogre once again when his body suddenly stopped moving, and even before he can do anything, the ogre punched him in the chest. Evan flew backward like a broken kite and crashed against a tree. Evan coughed out mouthful of blood after crashing against the tree. What the hell happened? Evan tried to stand up while ignoring the pain that he was feeling in his chest area. The bones of his ribcage were almost fractured because of the ogre punch. Why my body suddenly stopped moving, Evan thought, and looked at the ogre with a painful expression on his face. When Evan looked at the ogre, he saw its eye, which was red some time ago, was now pitch black, and the damage that he did earlier to its leg was also healing at rapid speed. I always wanted to fight against a black ogre, George shouted while slashing at the chest of the ogre. The muscles of George were bulging out and a crimson aura was coming out from his body. His long sword was releasing ice energy that frees the surrounding air around it. Ka-ah! The ogre screamed in pain when a deep wound appeared on its chest, and surprisingly an icy layer appeared around the wound that was slowing down its healing. You were shocked when you saw the black ogre earlier. Now you are saying you always wanted to fight against them, Dean said, and punched the ogre right in the stomach. Dean was barehanded, but currently, his whole body was surrounded by earth armor and he looked like a humanoid golem. James was surrounded by purple lighting and was attacking the ogre while running around it. He was occupying the attention of the black ogre while Dean and George attack it. Crick! Suddenly the black ogre changed its attention from James to Dean and caught his arm when he was trying to punch it on its leg. Dean! George shouted and tried to free Dean by slashing at the arm of the ogre, but before he could do anything, the eye of the ogre lit up and a laser beam pierced through the tough earth armor of Dean. A painful scream came out from Dean's mouth when the laser beam pierced through his shoulder. After shooting the laser beam from its eye, the ogre closed its eye for a moment. George and James didn't miss this chance and quickly attacked the arm of the ogre from which it was holding the Dean. The crimson aura that was coming out from George's body suddenly intensified and his muscles bulged out like they were about to explode. Ha-ah! With a war cry, George slashed at the arm of the ogre with his long sword, and to the ogre's horror, its arm was severed like a tofu. Dean fell to the ground after the arm of the ogre was severed. James quickly came near Dean and took him away from the ogre. George also backed away from the ogre after his attack and coughed out a mouthful of blood because he pushed his body too much in the last attack. The ogre was crying in pain after losing its arm. Because of George's special sword that does additional ice damage, its arm was regenerating very slowly. Even a black ogre can't grow its severe limb quickly. George took out a healing potion and quickly drank it. Then he went towards James, who was giving a healing potion to Dean. Dean's earth armor was completely broken near his shoulder area and it was bleeding pretty badly. Dean drank the healing potion. Although his wound will take a long time to heal, the potion at least stopped his bleeding. This bastard is quite tough, George said after coming near Dean and James. They all looked towards Evan, who was fighting against the other ogre alone. "Is that guy really an E-rank hunter?" Dean asked when he saw how Evan was fighting the ogre alone. "His condition is also not looking good. Although he is doing some damage to the ogre, it is not enough to defeat it because of its regeneration skill," James said when he saw how all damage that Evan was doing was healed in no time. "Stop paying attention to him. We should quickly kill this ogre since we are 3 people here and help him," George said to them, and once again charged towards the ogre. Just as James and Dean looked away from Evan, the eye of the ogre Evan was fighting turned pitch black, and it's used another skill that froze the body of Evan. Because of this skill, Evan wasn't able to move his body and was struck away by ogre and crashed against a tree. "Just how many skills does this damn ogre have?" Evan said when he saw the black eye of the ogre. Evan looked at his sword and saw it was filled with cracks and can't be used anymore. "I should have stolen a better sword from the academy," Evan thought when he saw the condition of his sword. Evan put away his sword and drank a healing potion. "Looks like I will have to use my hands," Evan thought, and charged toward the ogre. When Evan came near the ogre, he once again felt like his body was being restricted by something. "Do you think your trick will work on me again?" Evan shouted and used his skill Shadow Walk. Shadow Walk. Your body will turn into a shadow and you can walk through any barrier and restrictions without being hindered. Suddenly Evan disappeared while running towards the ogre. The black ogre was taken aback when Evan suddenly disappeared. It looked around its surroundings with its pitch black eye but wasn't able to find Evan. Suddenly a black shadow materialized behind the ogre and turned into Evan. After appearing behind the ogre using his Shadow Walk skill, Evan closed his fist and punched at the knee joint of the ogre with his full power. His monarch core started to rotate at its full speed and gather mana around his fist. When Evan's fist struck the knee joint of the black ogre, it fell down on its knees. Evan did not stop there and gathered mana around his legs. After gathering mana around his leg, Evan jumped up and punched the ogre in the back of its head. Because of the fist impact, the ogre fell to the ground face first. Evan did not miss this opportunity and once again used Shadow Walk and came in front of the ogre, who fell to the ground. Evan pointed his finger at the eye of the ogre and used around 50% of his mana to create a shadow bullet. A jet black bullet was formed at the finger of Evan, which he shot towards the eye of the ogre. Pucky eye. The bullet pierced through the eye of the black ogre and even destroyed its brain. Everything happened too fast that ogre wasn't even able to cry out before it died. Since the moment Evan used Shadow Walk skill, only 10 seconds passed and he killed the ogre. If not for his skill Shadow Walk that can allow him to move without being restricted by anything, it would have been really difficult for him to kill the ogre when it was using its restriction skill. After killing the ogre, Evan sat down on the ground while panting heavily. He used more than 70% of his mana in just 10 seconds, which took a toll on his body. "I hope this ogre gave me a core, and when I absorb it with my monarch core I receive one of its skill," Evan thought while looking at the dead ogre. "I am still not strong enough," Evan thought while looking at the corpse of the black ogre. "I am almost out of breath." Just after fighting against a D+ rank monster, Evan stood up and looked at George and others who were still fighting against the black ogre. Evan was a little disappointed when he wasn't able to kill the black ogre easily, who was just a D+ rank monster. He thought that with his monarch core, which is D rank, and his prime core, which is currently E rank, he should be able to fight against a C rank monster. But after fighting against the black ogre, he realized he still has a long way to go. "I was also not able to control my power properly and wasted too much mana during the fight. I should have trained a little more before accepting a mission." Since Evan's power increased by a large margin, suddenly he wasn't able to control it properly, and during the fight when he used his mana to strengthen his body he wasted too much mana. Acutely, it was already a miracle that Evan was able to kill a black ogre alone that is famous for its regeneration and defense. Even a C rank hunter can't kill a black ogre easily because of its abnormal skills. You can guess this just by looking at George and the other hunters who are still trying to kill the second black ogre. Even when fighting 3 versus 1 they were not able to kill that black ogre till now. "I should help them so we can leave this damn place," Evan thought, and moved towards George and the other hunters. "How the hell it can still move around?" George shouted in an irritated voice. After cutting an arm of the black ogre, it was a lot easier for them to attack black ogre. But since Dean was also injured earlier, they were still struggling against this ogre even though its body was filled with numerous injuries. Because of George's sword that froze the wounds of the ogre, its regeneration skill wasn't working properly. "This ogre is like a cockroach that you can't kill," Dean said while attacking the leg of the ogre with a club made of rock. James was using his lightning spear to slow down the movement of the black ogre, but just by looking at the three of them, anyone can tell that their condition was not good. They all started to get tired. On the other hand, the ogre was fighting like it had endless stamina. "Damn, we can't go on like this. We need to do a fatal attack if we want to kill it," James shouted while stabbing his spear at the stomach of the black ogre. "It's not easy to do fatal damage to this bastard because of its defense and regeneration," Dean said in an irritated tone. Suddenly Evan appeared behind the ogre like a shadow and punched the knee joint of the ogre like last time. Because of the sudden attack, the ogre fell to its knee after losing its balance. "Get ready to attack its eye," Evan shouted, and after jumping up punched at the back of the head of the ogre. Even George and others were startled when Evan suddenly appeared behind the ogre using his shadow walk skill, but they did not miss the chance that Evan provided them. Because of Evan's punch, the ogre fell face first to the ground. George was the first who came before the black ogre and slashed at its eye with his long sword. Patchy. The eye of the black ogre burst apart because of George's sword slash. Just as George burst the eye of the ogre, James arrived, surrounded by purple lighting. James used his spear and stabbed the eye of the ogre. Crackle. Lighting crackled around the spear of James, and because the defense of the ogre was very weak in that area, his spear pierced through all the way to its brain. The lighting of the spear cooked the brain of the ogre, and the foul smell of rotten cooked meat permeates the area. "This bastard is finally dead," George said and sat down on the ground. "We should leave from here. Soon other monsters will come here after smelling the blood," James said to others after they killed the black ogre. Everyone nodded after hearing this. "George, can you give me your sword for a moment? My sword broke during the fight. I want to look for the core, but the skin of this ogre is quite tough," Evan said with an embarrassed tone. Sure, George gave his sword to Evan without any problem, because if not for him, who knows how long it would have taken them to kill this black ogre. James and others also looked for the core in the body of the second black ogre, and other E-rank monsters that they killed earlier. Evan came near the black ogre that he killed and used the long sword of George to look for the core near its heart. Evan's eyes lit up when he found a purplish black core near the heart of the black ogre. "I hope when my prime core reaches D rank and I absorb this with my monarch core, I will receive a skill of this black ogre," Evan mumbled to himself, because every skill that black ogre had was too powerful and he also wanted to get its skills. After taking the core, Evan used his shadow storage skill and the body of the ogre suddenly started to sink into the ground. Evan can sell the body of the black ogre at a good price. People can use it to create a weapon and other things. Evan doesn't know how much space his shadow storage skill have, so he was not sure about storing the body of the ogre, but luckily he was able to store the whole body without any problem. "Your skill is quite impressive. People have to buy expensive storage rings if they want to sell the bodies of monsters after killing them, but you can just keep them with your skill," Dean said when he saw how the body of the black ogre sank into the ground. Dean and others also found a core in the body of the second black ogre. Evan tried to put away the second body of the ogre in his shadow storage but wasn't able to put it. "Looks like I will have to increase the level of my core if I want to store more things in it," Evan thought while shaking his head. "Henry, let's leave from here since other monsters will soon come here after smelling the blood," George said to Henry after coming near him. Henry nodded and they all soon left for Oklahoma City once again. "Can you sell that black ogre core to me?" Evan asked Dean and others because he wanted to absorb the core of the black ogre using his monarch core. "Well, I don't mind since you also helped us take down that ogre," George said while looking at James and Dean. Both of them also didn't object to it, so George gave the core of the black ogre to Evan. "Let me know your account number, I will transfer the money," Evan said happily when he got the core. George told his bank account number and said just transfer 45,000 credits, but D+ rank cores can be sold for 60,000 credits without any problem, Evan said with a confused face because George was asking just 45,000 credits for a D+ rank core. "You also helped us to take care of that ogre, so of course, "We are not going to take your share," Dean said, while waving his hands. When Evan heard this, he smiled and transferred 45,000 credits to George, who will split it later. Evan was happy that he didn't receive some trash hunter as a teammate who act almighty and try to take the fortune of other people. Even when Dean and others found out Evan was just an E-rank hunter in the start, they didn't mock him or say anything to him. At first Evan accepted this mission. He thought he will find some half-backed hunters who will try to do something stupid when they will find out he is just an E-rank hunter. Now I just have to advance my prime to D rank so I can once again absorb the cores through my Monarch core, Evan thought, and put away the Ogre core. "We should reach there in 1 hour," Dean said while looking outside. "Finally I will sleep on a comfortable bed today," George said while yawning. It has been 2 days since Evan and others were attacked by the Black Ogre. Luckily nothing major happened after the Black Ogre attack, and they are about to reach Oklahoma City. During these 2 days, Evan was able to collect 2 more D-rank cores and 5 E-rank cores. Now he had 3 D-rank cores, 5 E-rank, and 2 D+ rank cores, but these are not enough to push his prime core to E+ rank. On top of that, he is not going to use Black Ogre cores on his prime core. "It went better than I expected," Evan thought when he heard they will soon reach Oklahoma City. One of the reasons he decided to do a mission instead of going dungeon was to gain some experience in missions, because practical exams for Hunter Academy students will be held soon. Evan never participated in any practical exam because it requires you to show your skills and strength, and Evan, who was nothing more than an F-rank hunter, can't do anything during the practical exam. Normally in practical exams, students will receive a mission from the academy that they will have to complete to get a better score. These missions can be anything like exterminating some monsters in a particular area, killing some bandits who rob the merchants, clearing a dungeon, and many more. Now that Evan had enough strength, he also wanted to participate in the practical exams of the academy, which is why he decided to do a mission that will help him understand how everything works during a mission. "Look, we are about to reach there." Evan looked outside from the window after hearing the Dean's voice and saw 50 meters high walls and a gate where 2 hunters were sitting while talking to each other. "I heard most of the cities are protected by a barrier, then why there are these high walls?" Evan asked when he saw 50 meters high walls. Oklahoma City is also protected by a barrier, but it is pretty weak when you compare it to the barrier of Astrate City. "Do you think a barrier of that magnitude can be installed everywhere?" George said while looking at the high walls. Evan nodded in understanding when he heard this. He also understands that a barrier that can repel every monster cannot be installed everywhere. After all, that kind of barrier must be very hard to create. Soon the van arrived near the city gate where 2 guards were sitting. Both of them were C-rank and looked quite bored. Henry took out some papers and showed them to guards, who allowed them to enter. After checking the papers, "You geese can stay in the Four Seasons Hotel. I already booked your rooms, but just show your hundred. After going there we will leave for Astrate City tomorrow when I am done with my business here," Henry said to Ethan and others after entering the city. "Let's go. I know where this hotel is located," Dean said, and left with Evan and others. Henry had to settle his cargo before he can go back to the hotel. Evan looked around the city while following Dean. Unlike Astrate City, which is filled with modern buildings, most of the buildings in Oklahoma City were the medieval style. Evan felt like he came back in time when technology was not developed, but only the look of the city was medieval style. There was every modern facility available. After 10 minutes of walking, Evan and others finally arrived before a large medieval-looking villa with the sign Four Seasons Hotel hanging on top of it. Evan and others went inside, and Evan was surprised when he saw how the floor was made of beautiful ivory wood that gave it a luxurious look. "I wonder what is the cost of staying here for one night," Evan thought when he saw how luxurious the hotel was. Even though Henry was the one who was paying, he can't help but thought this because he spent most of his life being poor. After entering the hotel, Dean and others went to reception and showed their ID. Just like Henry said, after showing their ID, the receptionist gave them the key to their room. Since all of them were pretty tired after guarding the cargo for 2 days without much sleep, all of them went to their room. Evan and the others arrived at Oklahoma City in the afternoon, so when Evan woke up after sleeping it was already nighttime. Evan looked at the clock and it was already 7:30 p.m. Evan rubbed his eyes and stood up. He washed his face and thought about what should he do. I wanted to stay here for some time and relax a bit. After all, it is my first time coming out from Maastricht City. But we are leaving tomorrow, Evan said with a sigh, because he wanted to chill here for some time before going back to the academy. Unfortunately, Henry will be going back tomorrow. I should visit the market and buy a sword, Evan thought when he remembered the condition of his sword. But first Evan stood up with a bright smile. I am going to enjoy the most expensive dishes of this hotel, Evan said with a smile that resembles a thug, because Henry is the one who will pay for the food he will eat here, since that guy is going back tomorrow and I can't enjoy myself here by touring. I am going to plunder his money by eating every expensive dish here, Evan thought, and ordered the most expensive dishes at the hotel through the landline phone of his room. Just after 10 minutes someone knocked on the door. When Evan opened the door he saw a waiter with a trolley full of food. Evan allowed the waiter to enter the room, who left after putting all the food on the table. Although I ordered everything in excitement, can I even eat all of this? Evan muttered to himself when he saw how many dishes he ordered without even realizing it. Well, I am in my growing phase, I should at least eat this much, Evan said, and started to dig in food. I feel like I am a second-generation rich young master, Evan said, while patting his round belly that became like a football after he was done eating everything. Let's see if there is a weapon shop nearby, Evan said while taking out his phone. After searching on internet, Evan found some shops not so far away from his location. Alright, let's see if I can find something decent here, Evan said, and left the hotel room. Evan left the Four Seasons Hotel and went towards the market by following the map he got from the internet. Many blacksmiths in our inner world can create extremely powerful artifacts using various materials. Since Evan doesn't have much money currently, he wanted to buy a normal sword that he can use for the time being. After 10 minutes of walking, Evan came to a shop whose artifacts, the things that blacksmiths create from monster body parts and other magical materials, are called artifacts. Only extremely talented blacksmiths can create artifacts. The other way you can get an artifact is by clearing a dungeon. After clearing a dungeon, there is a high chance that you will receive an artifact as a reward. Welcome, a male attendant said to Evan when he entered the shop. How can we help you? I am looking for a sword, Evan said. Please go to the second floor. Most of the weapons are being sold there, the attendant said to Evan. Evan nodded and went to the second floor. There were many weapons on the second floor, like swords, spears, machetes, bows, and many others. Evan went towards the section where most of the swords were placed. Evan ignored the E and F rank sword and came into D rank swords section. There are more than I expected, Evan said when he saw around 50 rank D swords. Evan came before a light blue sword and looked at it. Frost sword, D rank, a light sword created from the bones of a frost tiger. It can increase the power of your sword attack by 50%. A 50% increase in sword attack is quite good, Evan thought, and looked at another sword. Moon sword, D rank, a sword made from the moonstone that absorbed the moonlight for 20 years. Do 10% extra damage to darkness type monsters. Evan continued to look at D rank sword and eventually found a sword that he liked. Nether steel sword, D rank, a sword made from nether steel. It is very sharp and can cut through even the hardest metal. Because of nether steel, the flow of mana is improved by 20%. Evan tried to imbue his mana into the sword and found it was flowing into the sword without any problem. Although this sword was normal when compared to other D-rank swords, Evan found this sword perfect because of its weight and size, which match with his previous sword. Evan went to the counter while holding the nether steel sword and said, I want to buy this nether steel sword. It will cost you 50,000 credits, the receptionist said after seeing the nether steel sword. Evan felt like his heart was bleeding, but he still purchased the sword. I just have 5,000 credits left. Evan got 120,000 credits after selling the cores. He bought healing and mana potions along with some other things before coming to the mission. He spent 20,000 credits in those potions, then he bought the core of Black Ogre from George and others, and now this sword. In just a few days he spent all of the money that he got after selling the cores. I am dirt poor again, Evan thought after leaving the shop. Evan roamed around the city for some time after purchasing the sword and returned to the hotel after 1 hour. When Evan came back he met George and others who were talking to Henry. "You are back from your tour," Henry said when he saw Evan. "We are going for dinner. Want to join us?" "Sorry, I already ate. You guys can go by yourself," Evan said after hearing Henry. "All right, remember we will leave around early morning tomorrow, so take a good sleep," Henry said to Evan and went with George and the others. Evan came back to his room and started watching a movie on his phone since he had nothing else to do. The night passed away just like this and the next day arrived. Henry's eyes twitched when he saw the hotel bill. Everything was fine except the food bill, and when he asked about it he finally found the culprit who ate the food of an entire football team. How the hell he ate the food of 7,000 credits? Henry paid the bill with a bleeding heart while cursing Evan for being a Snorlax. "Alright, let's go," Henry said to Evan and others after paying the bill and left the Four Seasons Hotel. While leaving, Henry was looking at Evan like he is his lifelong enemy. Evan already noticed this but ignored him because he was already aware of how costly his dinner was last night. They all came near the city gate where Henry's driver was waiting for them. Just like previously, Evan and the other hunters sat down at the back of the van and they all left Oklahoma City. "Hey, did you do something wrong? I felt like Henry was looking at you strangely," Dean asked Evan after they left the city. Evan's mouth twitched when he heard this because he was aware of why Henry was looking at him like this, but for obvious reasons, he can't tell them about it. "I don't know, maybe he is not feeling good," Evan said while making an ignorant face like he didn't know anything. When Dean heard this he shrugged his shoulders because he just asked out of curiosity. After 6 hours the van suddenly stopped moving and the driver activated the barrier of the van. "There are some monsters in the way. We can't move forward before you guys clean them." Evan and the other hunters heard Henry's voice after the barrier of the van was activated. Evan and others came out of the van and saw 7 tigers-like monsters were blocking their way. 3 tigers were 3 meters tall while 4 tigers were 2 meters tall, with their light yellow skin and black stripes all over their body. They resembles the Bengal tiger, 3D rank and 4E rank forest tigers, George said after seeing the monsters. "Let's check out the power of this new baby," Evan thought after taking out his nether steel sword. Haste. Even before George and others could react, Evan used haste skill and charged towards the tigers alone. "Hey, wait for us," Dean shouted, and he also dashed towards the tigers with James and George. The agility of Evan after using the haste was too fast for a D-rank monster. So even before any tiger can react, Evan came before an E-rank tiger and slashed horizontally without using mana. Swish, like a hot knife passing through the butter, the head of the E-rank tiger was severed cleanly. "The 50,000 credits that I spent on this sword were worth it," Evan thought when he saw how even without using his mana the sword easily severed the head of the tiger. Roar! The remaining 6 tigers roared when they saw how Evan killed one of the tigers. Swish! Suddenly a green aura appeared around all D-rank tigers and they charged toward him with far greater agility than a D-rank monster. When Evan saw the green aura he remembered, George told him at the beginning of their journey that the forest tiger is one of the monsters that is famous for its agility. They are fast for a D-rank hunter, but for me, Evan thought, and without much effort jumped back and avoided the attack of 3 D-rank tigers. With his D-rank Monarch Core and D-rank Prime Core, his agility was already much higher than a D-rank hunter, and with the help of haste skill, his agility is in a completely different league when compared to D-rank monsters. Even before the D-rank tigers can react, George came from behind and slashed at the back of one of the tigers. James and Dean went to take care of the 3 remaining E-rank forest tigers. Roar! The forest tiger roared in pain when a deep wound appeared on its back because of George's attack. All 3 D-rank tigers looked back at George when he suddenly attacked them, but it was a fatal mistake because Evan, who was standing in front of them, didn't miss this chance. In a blink of an eye, he appeared before a forest tiger using his haste skill and slashed at the head of the tiger. Surprisingly, the forest tiger reacted quickly and with a quick moment jumped back. Because of its quick reaction, Evan wasn't able to kill it in a single move, but a large wound still appeared on its left shoulder. Roar! The tiger roared in pain and Evan was about to finish it off while it was still trying to recover from his attack when one of the D-rank tiger opened its mouth and shot a dark green blade toward Evan. Shitty. Evan cursed when he saw he do not have enough time to dodge the blade. He quickly used his nether steel sword and slashed at the incoming blade while imbuing his mana in the sword. The flow of mana was a lot smoother than his previous sword, and when the nether steel sword that was covered in a light blue layer of mana and a faint layer of darkness clashed against the dark green blade, it destroyed the dark green blade like without any problem. After destroying the green blade, Evan came before the forest tiger who shot the green blade at him earlier and with a swift motion beheaded it even before it can react. After killing the tiger, Evan didn't stop and using haste quickly charged toward the other D-rank tiger and in just 10 seconds he killed it. George also didn't take long and after a minute he also killed the last D-rank tiger. Soon Dean and James also finished the 3 E-rank tigers without any problem. "Let's look for cause and leave immediately," George said when he noticed other monsters will soon come here after smelling the blood. But suddenly an arrow came out of nowhere and pierced the shoulder of George, and even before Evan and the others can react 3 more arrows came toward them at a lightning speed. Swish! Evan heard the sound of an incoming arrow and with sheer reflex slashed with his sword in front of him. Cack! Evan's sword clashed against an arrow and it was cut in two instantly. Evan quickly looked at Dean and James and saw both of them were fine. Dean was covered in earth armor so the arrow wasn't able to pierce through it, and James also cut down the arrow using his spear before it can reach him. "What the hell is going on?" Evan asked while looking around their surroundings. Just as Evan asked, suddenly a light yellow barrier appeared around them. "Damn, it's a trap barrier, it must be the work of bandits," George said while taking out the arrow from his shoulder. "David, didn't I tell you the archery of this bastard is complete trash? Look, he wasn't even able to kill those trash hunters who were not aware about us." Suddenly Evan and others heard a gruff voice and looked behind them. Evan saw 3 men who were smiling like third-rate villains coming towards them. The man who just spoke was 2 meters tall and his head was completely bald. The man was holding a light yellow crystal that looked strangely similar to the color of the barrier in which they were trapped. "Whose archery is trash, you bald head? All of them are D-rank hunters and I even managed to wound one of them." A short man who was holding a bow rebutted when he heard what the bald man said. "Hey, David, I don't think we need this bald head who just activates the trap barrier whenever we rob someone. We can do this on our own. Why don't we just kick him out from our group?" Oliver the short archer said. "Stop fighting and get back to work, David," the leader said in a cold tone, and both Oliver and Drew shut their mouth. Evan looked at the bandits with cold eyes because if he didn't react on time earlier the arrow would have pierced his head, and he is sure that even with his current strength it would have been very difficult for him to survive from that kind of injury. Oliver and Drew were D rank while David was D+ rank. Evan came near the barrier and touched it. Ouch! Evan quickly removed his hand from the barrier when he felt an electric shock just after touching the barrier. "It's not going to work. We can't go out before the energy of the trap is exhausted, or they remove it." Choosing the controller, Evan heard Dean's voice, who was looking at bandits with grim expressions. Quickly, turned back and moved towards Oklahoma City. When Henry saw how Evan and others were trapped in a barrier by bandits, he decided to ditch them without hesitation because he knew there is nothing he can do to save them and will die meaninglessly if he did not run away. Just as the driver started the van to run away, Drew the bald man took out a strange black device and pointed it toward the van. After pointing the device at the van, he clicked the only red button available on the device, and suddenly the barrier that was surrounding the van disappeared and its engine also shut down. "Do they think we are stupid?" Drew said while looking at Van with mocking expressions. "What happened?" Henry asked in a panicked voice when the engine of the van suddenly shut down and the barrier disappeared. "The engine is not working," the driver said in panic. "Oliver, bring them here," David said to Archer after Drew shut down the barrier of the van. "You bastard, remove this barrier and fight with me head on," George shouted at bandits while holding his shoulder that stopped bleeding after he drank a healing potion. "Are you stupid? We trapped you inside because we wanted to rob without problem. Do you think we will remove the barrier just because you asked?" Oliver the short archer said with a sneer and went towards the van. Don't worry, we will remove the barrier soon. After all, it uses too much energy to maintain it," Drew said with a sinister smile. When Evan and others saw his smile, an ominous feeling bloom in their heart. "But I don't think you guys will be able to see us remove this barrier," Drew said, while taking out a small bottle that was filled with dark green liquid. "Poison of swamp python," James said with a dark look when he saw the dark green liquid. "Oh, you know about this," Drew said in surprise when James recognized the poison. "Then you should also know what I am going to do." "What kind of poison is that?" Dean asked James, since he doesn't know about it. "The poison of swamp python will turn into gas as soon as it comes into contact with air. If he threw that bottle inside this barrier, the air around us will become poisonous and we will die," James said in despair-filled voice, "because there is no way they will survive if the air around them become poisonous. They will have to remove the barrier if they want to throw that bottle inside." "Can't we go out at that moment?" George asked when he heard this. "I don't think they need to remove this barrier. If my guess is correct, anyone can come inside the barrier from outside, but you can't go outside after entering the barrier this time," Dean answered with a helpless voice. "Please let us go, we don't have anything you can check our van," Henry said while pleading when Oliver brought him. "We already know your van is empty, but I don't think your bank account is also empty. Just transfer 2 million credits into this bank account and you can go," David said while showing a bank account number. Henry's face turned white when he heard this and he said, "I am just a normal merchant. How can I have 2 million credits in my bank account? Do you think we are fools? Just by looking at your van I can tell that you are not an ordinary merchant," David said in a cold voice after hearing Henry. When Henry heard the cold voice of David, a chill ran down his spine and he looked at Evan and the other hunters who were still trapped in the barrier. "Drew, kill them," David said when he saw Henry was looking at Evan and the other hunters. When Drew heard this, he smiled sinisterly and looked at Evan and others. "Wait, I will transfer the money." "Don't kill them," Henry shouted when he heard what David said, "because if Evan and the other hunter died, there is no way he will be able to safely reach Astrate City. Do it fast, my patience is limited," David said with an indifferent voice and showed the bank account number to Henry. Suddenly David heard the scream of Drew and quickly looked back. When David looked back, he saw one of the hunters who was trapped inside the barrier was looking at him coldly while his sword was plunged into the heart of Drew. Evan wasn't worried about being trapped in the barrier because if he want, he can leave the barrier whenever he want with his Shadow Walk skill. Shadow Walk. Your body will turn into a shadow and you can walk through any barrier and restrictions without being hindered. But Evan was hesitating a little because of James, who is also a student of the Hunter Academy. Till now Evan only showed Shadow Storage and Haste skill to other hunters. He didn't show them his Shadow Walk and Shadow Bullet skill because it will be too suspicious for him to have so many skills. If it was only George and Dean who don't know about him, he can still use any skill without much problem. But James is already aware about Evan that he is the weakest hunter in the academy. It is already quite strange that he can kill D-rank monsters without any problem while being only E-rank. Now if he shows other skills it will be quite troublesome. Evan doesn't want to reveal the existence of his Monarch core to anyone or he might get into some problems because of it. "Don't kill them, I will transfer the money." Evan heard the shout of Henry and saw he was about to transfer the money to the bandits. Is this guy an idiot? It is already clear they will kill us even after he transferred the money to them, Evan thought while shaking his head, because there is no way these bandits will leave them alive. Guess I have no choice. Evan finally made up his mind and decided to use his Shadow Walk skill. That guy is mute and doesn't talk to other students, so I think it will be fine. Evan used Shadow Walk skill and suddenly turned into a shadow. He went towards the barrier and easily passed through it without any problem. Just as Evan passed through the barrier, he felt his mana decrease by a considerable amount. So it will take a large amount of mana if I want to pass through a barrier, Evan thought when he lost a large amount of mana after passing through the barrier. What the hell was that? George asked while looking at the place where Evan was standing just a moment ago. Where is he? Dean asked while looking around them. Suddenly they heard a painful scream of Drew and saw somehow Evan appeared behind him and stabbed his sword in his heart. How? Drew asked with a trembling tone while blood came out from his mouth. Ask Lucifer when you met him, Evan said coldly and pulled back his sword. He didn't feel anything after killing a human because they were the first who tried to kill him, so there is no way he will let them live after they tried to kill him. I'm not a naive person who will hesitate to kill someone just because they are human. I will kill anyone who will try to harm me, Evan thought when he saw Drew drop to the ground and his life ended. After killing Drew, Evan looked at David coldly, who was looking at the cold corpse of Drew without any emotion on his face. "You bastard!" Oliver the short archer shouted and shot an arrow towards Evan. Evan used haste skill and easily dodged the arrow. After dodging the arrow, Evan first charged toward Oliver. Even before the archer can react, Evan came before him and grabbed him by the shirt like he is throwing some kind of garbage. Evan used his abnormal strength and threw Oliver towards the barrier in which George and others were trapped. Just like what Dean said earlier, Oliver was not stopped by the barrier and crashed before Dean and others. After throwing Oliver inside the barrier, Evan ignored him and once again looked at David, who was still standing in the same place. "You are quite strong," David said after Evan threw Oliver inside the barrier. Evan raised an eyebrow when he saw how David was still calm despite the fact that Drew and Oliver is already out. "You don't look bothered by the death of your subordinates," Evan said after seeing David's reaction. "They are just disposable tools for me," David said without changing his expression. "Since they are dead, I will just find a new one. A bandit is just a bandit in the end," Evan said without much surprise because he never expected to see any loyalty among them. "But you are wrong about one thing." Evan cracked his neck and said. David raised an eyebrow and asked, "What is it?" "You will not be able to find any new tools because you are going to die here," Evan said and charged toward David using haste skill. Even though David was a D+ rank hunter, the agility of Evan was too fast after using haste skill for him to react on time. Evan clasped his hand and threw a punch at the face of David, but just as Evan's punch connected with the face of David, his eyes trembled because Evan felt like instead of hitting the face of David, he just punched an unshakable iron wall. Evan looked at the face of David and saw the skin of David's face take the sheen color of metal before his punch connected with his face. Even before Evan can understand what was going on, he felt danger like never before, and without hesitation, he used Shadow Walk. Just as Evan turned into a shadow, David's fist, which was covered in silver like metal, missed him. Evan moved backward in his shadow form, and after arriving 10 meters away from David, he stopped using the Shadow Walk skill. When Evan once again looked at David, he saw, somehow David's skin turned into a silver color metal and he looked like a metallic golem instead of a human. Spikes like blades were coming out from his arms that looks quite sharp. "Do you think I become the leader of this group without doing anything? What did you say just now? You will kill me. Let me see how you are going to kill me. With the defense that my skill provides, forget about killing me. You won't even able to leave a scar on my skin," David said to Evan while laughing. When Evan saw how David turned into a metallic golem, his expression didn't change and he looked at his nether steel sword with a smirk. Nether steel sword, D rank, a sword made from nether steel. It is very sharp and can cut through even the hardest metal. Because of nether steel, the flow of mana is improved by 20%. Let's see if this sword can cut through his skin, Evan thought, and without saying anything once again shot towards David. According to details of his sword, it can cut through even the hardest metal without even using mana. So what will happen if Evan used his mana that was even more powerful because of the strange black energy that was mixed in it? Evan came before David, who was still surprised because of the high agility of Evan, and slashed at him while imbuing his mana in the sword. "Fool, stop struggling, you can't harm me," David shouted and used his arm to block the slash of the sword. A light blue layer of mana mixed with a faint black layer shined around the nether steel sword, and when it clashed against the metallic arm of David, a hand flew into the sky and red blood spurted out. "Ugh!" David screamed in pain and fell to the ground while holding his severed hand. Because of the pain he was feeling, David started to roll on the ground. The severed hand of David fell 2 meters away from Evan. When he saw the severed hand of David, Ethan's eyes trembled for a second, but they returned to normal very quickly, like they never trembled. "Bastard, I will kill you," David shouted with blood-red eyes while trying to stop the blood that was coming out from his severed hand. Evan did not say anything and slowly walked towards David, who was looking at him with blood-red eyes. "Didn't I tell you, you will die today?" Evan said in an emotionless tone. "Die, you bastard!" David shouted, and suddenly the spikes that were coming out from his arm flew toward Evan like bullets. "Shadow Walk!" Evan muttered and evaded the spikes by using Shadow Walk's skill. Evan appeared behind David using Shadow Walk's skill and with a swift motion beheaded him even before he can react. Thud, a head roll on the ground and everything came to end. Evan looked at the headless corpse of David and took off the storage ring that he was wearing. After taking David's storage ring, Evan walked towards the body of Drew and picked up the barrier crystal. After picking up the barrier crystal, he threw it toward Henry while saying, "Deactivate the barrier." After saying this, Evan silently went inside the van. No matter what, it was the first time Evan killed a human, so although he wasn't feeling guilty because they were the first that tried to kill him, he still felt strange that he just killed 2 humans. "Well, it was bound to happen someday after I was transmigrated into this world," Evan muttered to himself and stopped thinking about everything that just happened. After 10 minutes, George and others also came back into the van after Henry freed them from the barrier. George and others already killed Oliver when Evan threw him inside the barrier. When George and the other hunters saw Evan, who was leaning back with his eyes closed, they didn't say anything and quietly sat down. Soon the driver started the van once again. The effect of the black device that Drew used was cancelled when he was killed by Evan, since it requires mana in order to stop the functions of the van. Time continues to pass and soon night arrived. The driver stopped the van in a good area to spend the night and take some rest after what happened earlier. During this entire time, no one talked about anything. Evan was busy with his own thoughts while George and the other hunters were also quite shocked because of the earlier event. They knew that if not for Evan, they all would have died there without being able to do anything. "Let's spend the night here." Evan opened his eyes after hearing Henry. He came out of the van with George and others and stretched his stiff body a bit. "I will go look around our surroundings with James," George said, and went to look around their surroundings for any monster. Henry and his driver also get to work and started to cook dinner after settling their signature outdoor barbecue. George and James returned after 20 minutes and continued to monitor their surroundings before the dinner was cooked. "Dinner is ready," Henry shouted and called Evan and others for dinner. "You guys can eat. I will keep guarding," Evan said to the other hunters since he was not in the mood to eat anything. George and the other hunters looked at each other and after shrugging their shoulders went to eat dinner. When George and the others left, Evan took out the storage ring that he got from David and used a drop of his blood to link the storage ring to himself. After linking the ring to himself, Evan looked inside to see what he got after killing those bandits. When Evan saw the things inside the ring, a smile appeared on his face. At least they were not totally useless, Evan thought after seeing 10 D rank cores and 16 E rank cores. There were some other things as well, like healing potions, mana potions, and some other minor things. I should be able to push my prime core to E+ rank with all of these cores, Evan thought happily after seeing the cores. One of the things that he hoped for before completing the mission was to gather enough cores to advance E+ rank with his prime core, and because of bandits, his goal completed without any problem. I wonder what will happen when my monarch core will reach C rank, Evan thought, because whenever a person reaches at C rank they will get a job class. Evan was not sure what will happen when his monarch core will reach C rank, because other people only have prime core and they get a job class after reaching C rank. Will I get a job class when my monarch core will reach C rank? Evan wondered while thinking about his monarch core. But if I got a job class when my monarch core reaches C rank, then what will happen when my prime core will reach at C rank? Evan had a lot of questions about his monarch core, like the black energy that is mixed in his mana and his class and many more, but he knew he will eventually get his answers when the time comes. Let's stop thinking about these things and focus on the things that are important for now, Evan muttered, and his mood, which was a little down after killing those bandits, finally improved after seeing enough cause for his advancement. The next thing is the practical exam of the Hunter Academy, Evan thought, and looked at the half moon in the sky. Finally it's over, Dean said while looking outside the window of the van. From the window of the van, Evan and other hunters can see the outline of the asteroid city. "It was one of the hardest transport missions of my life," George said while recalling the Black Ogre and Bandit attack. Well, it doesn't matter now that we are back safely, Dean said and looked at Evan, who was looking outside the window. After the bandit attack, nothing major happened during their journey and they all safely arrived at Astrate City. They did encounter some monsters on their way back, but most of them were Ian, Frank and Evan, and the other hunters took care of them easily. Evan did not get any high rank core, but he wasn't disappointed because he already had enough core to push his prime to E+ rank. After 3 minutes the van finally entered the gate of Astrate City and Evan once again saw the familiar city once again. After entering the city, the driver parked the van where most of the transport vehicles were stationed. When the driver parked the van, Evan came out from the van with the other hunters. Henry also came out from the van and walked towards them. "Thanks for your hard work. If not for you guys I would have never come back here safely," Henry said to Evan and the other hunters after coming near them. Evan and the other hunters just nodded. Now that they came back to the city, they all just wanted to finish everything quickly and take a good nap. Henry can also see that all of them were quite tired after constantly fighting against the monster, so he didn't hold them back and gave them a letter. It was proof that they all completed their mission successfully. Evan and others took the letter and put it away in their storage ring. Evan and James can show this letter in the mission hall to receive their mission points, while George and Dean can show this letter to the association office to receive their payment. After giving the letter, Henry was about to walk away when Evan said, "Aren't you forgetting something?" When Henry heard this, his body stiffened for a moment, then he coughed and gave Evan a light yellow crystal and a black device while saying, "I completely forget about this." Evan took the barrier crystal and the black device without any change in his expression, although he doesn't know how to use this, and he left it in the hand of Henry after killing bandits because his mood was off at that time. There is no way he will let him keep these precious artifacts. "These two will fetch me a good amount of money," Evan thought, and put away both things in his storage ring. "It was a pleasure to work with you guys," Evan said to George and the other hunters after putting away the barrier crystal and black device. Evan was happy that his teammates were not some dickheads who try to kill the weakest member during the mission. During the 2 years Evan spent in this world, he many times heard how some hunters killed their weakest member during the mission to rob his share and other things, so he was happy that he did not meet those kinds of guys. "We were lucky you were doing this mission with us. Thanks for your help during all this time," George said with a grateful voice. Dean and James also nodded after hearing George, because if not for Evan this mission might have turned their last mission. "Don't worry about it, let's meet again in the future," Evan said with a smile after hearing George, and started to walk away from them. "Should I directly go to the academy?" Evan thought while walking. "Let's go to a hotel and rent a room there. I will return academy after taking proper rest and eating dinner." Evan took a taxi and asked the driver to bring him to Crown Hotel, which was pretty near to the academy, and he heard the food of that place is also quite good. The driver nodded and started to drive towards the Crown Hotel. Evan closed his eyes and finally relaxed his tense muscles. It was his first time doing a mission, so he was quite tired after not sleeping properly for the past some days. Evan was so relaxed that he fell asleep while sitting in the taxi. "Wake up, young man, we arrived at Crown Hotel." Evan woke up after hearing the shout of the old driver. Evan looked outside and saw the Crown Hotel outside. "Sorry, I fall asleep," Evan said to the driver and exited the taxi. He paid the taxi bill and looked at the grand building of the Crown Hotel. "Just some days ago I can't even think about coming here," Evan thought, and entered the hotel. Evan went towards reception and asked for a room. "It will be 2,000 credits." Evan's mouth twitched when he heard the hotel price, but he still paid. The receptionist gave Evan the key to his room and told him to go to the 3rd floor where his room is located. Evan went into his room, which was quite luxurious, and first decided to take a bath before doing anything. After taking a bath, Evan jumped onto the bed and lay down like a log. "This mattress is quite soft. I can't even compare the mattress of my academy room with it," Evan said while rolling on the mattress. "Should I steal this mattress using my shadow storage skill?" Evan thought with a wicked smile. His mentality is completely twisted after living like a beggar for 2 years. Even though he can get hundreds of thousands of credits after selling the things he got after killing bandits, he still can't change his mentality in just a few days. Even before he decides what to do, the fatigue of his mission kicks in and he falls asleep without even realizing. When Evan woke up again, it was already 7 p.m. Evan arrived at the hotel around 10 in the morning, so he slept for around 9 hours. "It's the first time I slept for this long after coming to this world," Evan said. While starching his body after standing up, Evan washed his face and ordered something to eat. His food arrived in 10 minutes and Evan started to eat while cursing the hotel owner because of the price of the food. "I will advance my prime core to E+ rank after going back to the academy," Evan said while taking a bite of meat steak. After eating the food, Evan came out to form his room and left the hotel to go to the academy. The academy was quite close to the Crown Hotel, so he arrived there after 10 minutes of walking. When Evan entered the academy gate, someone bumped into him. When Evan looked at the person who bumped into him, he saw a tall guy who looks like an orc looking at him with a smile. Again, this is Hole. Evan sighed when he saw Mike and his gang. "Can't you walk while watching in front of you?" Evan said in an irritated tone because he was in good mood just by thinking about advancing his prime core to E+ rank, but he bumped into these morons who will surely try to pick a fight with him. The person who bumped into Evan was Lucas, who was looking at Evan with a cold smile. "Did you say something?" Lucas asked while looking down at Evan since his height was around 210 centimeters. Evan sighed when he saw this. "I might as well settle everything with them so I will not have to waste my time with them in the future." "Hey, I ask you something. Did you say something to me?" Lucas asked once again while grabbing the collar of Evan. Mike was watching everything with a cold smile. "This bastard was saved by Valerie last time, but let's see who will save him this time." Since they were at the gate of the academy, there were not many students. Only a few students were watching everything and they had no intention of intervening in this mess. "I warned you guys last time, don't mess with me again," Evan said while looking at Mike since he is the leader of their gang. Currently, of the 4 members of Mike's gang, only Lucas and he was present. The other 2, whose name Evan didn't bother to remember, were not there. Mike just showed a cold smile to Evan and sent a signal to Lucas. When Lucas saw the signal Mike sent him, he smiled coldly. Evan also saw how Mike sent a signal from his eye to Lucas, typical clinch plot of an old movie where third-rate villain uses his eye to give order to his subordinate. Evan thought after seeing the signal that Mike gave, "Let's finish this so I can advance my core to E+ rank," Evan thought, and even before Lucas can do anything, he used his left hand to free his collar from the hand of Lucas, and while using more than half of his strength slapped Lucas using his right hand. Since Lucas wasn't expecting Evan to attack him suddenly, he wasn't able to do anything. With his strength, Evan easily freed himself from Lucas, and with his high moment speed because of his agility, even before Lucas can react, Evan's right hand arrived before his cheek. Slap, thud, a loud sound rang out. Lucas's head was smashed against the cold ground of the academy floor. The power behind Evan's slap was too much that Lucas's head was smashed against the ground because of the impact of his slap. Lucas's jaw was dislocated, some of his teeth were broken and his mouth was bleeding. Even his head was bleeding because of how hard his head smashed against the cold ground. Lucas's eyes rolled inside his head because of the sudden attack and he passed out. Mike and the other students were shocked when they saw the condition of Lucas just after taking a slap from Evan. They all looked at Evan with their eyes wide open and saw him looking at Mike with an expressionless face. When Mike saw pitch-black eyes of Evan, his heart trembled for a moment. "Let's have a spar next Friday. If I win, stop bothering me with your nonsense again," Evan said to Mike without any expression on his face, and started to walk inside the academy, leaving behind a dumbfounded Mike and some shocked students who were lucky enough to see everything. Evan did not wait to hear Mike's response because he was 90% sure that Mike will accept his challenge. If Mike refused his challenge, he will not be able to control Lucas and the other members of his gang. Mike watched the back of Evan while his back was drenched in cold sweat. He looked at the condition of Lucas and can't help but gulp down his saliva. How the hell he can knock out a D-rank hunter just by a slap? Some students who saw everything were shocked because they never expected something like this to happen. Evan is known for being the weakest hunter in the academy, so it was not surprising that most of the students who saw Evan knocking out Lucas with just a single slap were shocked. I don't care how he did it, but do you think Mike will accept his challenge? Some students wondered while looking at Mike, who was trying to wake up Lucas. Evan didn't care much about the challenge he just made, because he did all this so that Mike and his gang will not bother him again in the future. Evan first went into the mission hall to receive his mission points. Evan went to the reception of the mission hall and saw a different receptionist there. "How can I help you?" the receptionist asked Evan when he was him. "I am here to submit my mission," Evan said while giving the letter that Henry gave him to the receptionist. The receptionist checked the letter and scanned it into the computer, and after a minute when he didn't find anything wrong he nodded and said, "Give me your Academy Hunter card, I will transfer 20 mission points in it." Evan handed his Hunter card and after a minute the receptionist returned him his card. "Do you want to accept another mission?" the receptionist asked after transferring the mission points to Evan. "Not now." Evan refused politely and left the mission hall and went towards his room. "Tomorrow is the swordsmanship class of Professor Robert. Although I don't need to learn swordsmanship now because I have enough power to protect myself even without a sword, I should at least inform him I will not come to his class anymore," Evan mumbled to himself after sitting down on his bed. Students of the academy can only skip classes if they are out on a mission or doing a dungeon raid. If they are not out on a mission or doing something important, they can't skip classes at the academy. Evan was able to skip classes this week because he was out on a mission, and it is the first time since he joined the academy that he skipped classes. Previously Evan can't accept the mission from Mission Hall because of his low strength, so he never skipped a class before. "Let's advance to E+ rank," Evan said and sat up crossed legs while taking out cores that he got after killing bandits. Evan took out a core and used a little mana to refine it. When Evan used his mana to refine the core, its energy rushed toward his prime core and was absorbed by it. Evan continued to refine one core after another. Since he was refining cores using his mana, he wasn't able to absorb 100% power of the core. With each core that Evan absorbed he felt a little stronger and his prime core slowly started to move towards E+ rank. There were around 20 D rank cores that Evan got from David's storage ring. When Evan absorbed the 16th core, suddenly his prime core started to rotate and the mana from the surroundings started to rush toward him. His prime core greedily absorbed the surrounding mana and Evan felt his power slowly increasing. Evan also noticed that his prime core was absorbing less mana than his monarch core while advancing. Evan still remembered when his monarch core advanced, a mana vortex was formed near him because of how much mana his monarch core absorbed while advancing. After 1 minute his prime core stopped rotating and mana from the surrounding also stopped rushing toward him. Suddenly Evan felt a new wave of energy spreading all over his body and his power increased by another level. Evan looked at his hand and closed his fist. The air around his fist trembled because of his sheer strength. When Evan saw this, a smile appeared on his face. Evan opened his status window and looked at it. Name, Evan. Rank, E+ monarch core. Rank, D. Strength, E+ agility, E+ mana, E+ stamina, E+ intelligence, E+ luck, C. charm, C+ skill: shadow walk, haste, shadow bullet physique: shadow monarch physique. Title, job: none. His prime core advanced to E+ rank, his luck became C and even his charm increased to C+ rank. After confirming his status, Evan closed his status window and put away the remaining cores because they were not enough to advance his prime core to D rank. If I have enough cores I can advance to the next rank without any problem. I don't have to stabilize my core like other people after advancing to next rank, Evan mumbled with a smile when he remembered another perk of his monarch core. After advancing to the next rank, people have to stabilize their core before they can once again absorb the energy from the core. If they absorb more energy without stabilizing their core, there is a high chance that their prime core will break apart. Evan never paid much attention to how people advanced their ranks before, since he wasn't able to advance because of his shadow physique, but now that he also started to advance using cores, Evan suddenly found it weird that many hunters were stuck in the same rank for quite a long time. Can't they just use more cores and advance their rank as much as they like? When Evan looked on the internet about this issue, he finally found hunters have to stabilize their prime core after advancing to the next rank. How much time it takes to stabilize the core depends on the potential of the hunter. Some people stabilize their core in a few days, while some can take months. There are even hunters who can't stabilize their cores for a lifetime after reaching to a certain rank because they don't have the potential to advance to the next rank. When Evan found out about all this, he was shocked because his prime core never destabilized even though he advanced from F rank to E+ rank in just mere days. Unlike other hunters, he advanced 3 times in just mere days and his prime core is still as stable as Mount Tai. Evan was confused why he don't need to stabilize his core after advancing. In the end, when Evan didn't find anything, he thought it must be another effect of his monarch core. If I am not wrong, I don't have to stabilize my prime core as long as my monarch core's rank is higher than my prime core, Evan thought after seeing how his prime core is completely stable even after reaching E+ rank. I will collect more cores and after advancing my prime core to D rank I can once again start advancing my monarch core, Evan said out loud while thinking about his monarch core. I can't wait to see what will happen when my monarch core will advance to C rank. Will I get any class from my monarch core? If I do get a class from my monarch core, then what will happen when my prime core will advance to C rank? Just thinking about the possibility what will happen when his both cores will advance to C rank, Evan can't help but want to collect enough cores right now and advance to C rank. I have to sell the things I got from David's storage ring. My bank account is almost empty, Evan said after remembering the balance in his bank account. Evan has 1 barrier crystal, 1 black device, and some other things that he found in David's storage ring. Along with those things, Evan was planning to sell the storage ring that he got from David and some E-rank cores that he collected during his mission. Evan is not going to absorb the energy from E-rank cores because even after absorbing energy from E-rank cores, he knew his prime core will barely able to move forward since it is already E+ rank. So instead of wasting those E-rank cores by absorbing them, he decided to sell them and earn some money. I also have to prepare for the practical exam since it's the first time I am going to take this exam. Evan rubbed his temples just by thinking how many things he have to do. Let's see what will happen in classes tomorrow. I don't even know what am I supposed to do in practical exams. Hopefully I will get some information tomorrow. If my charm continues to improve like this, I think I will soon become Mr. World, Evan said while rubbing his chin. Evan was standing before the mirror, bare chest and his perfect body was on full display. His jet black hairs were little wet, indicating that he just took a bath. If any girl sees him right now, they will definitely get charmed by his devilish handsome look. It's been a while since I last went into the class, Evan said, while wearing a black shirt that matched with his jet black hair and deep black eyes. Evan came out from his dorm room and left the boys' dormitory. After leaving the boys' dormitory, Evan went towards his classroom. Hey, did you hear what happened last night? While walking, Evan heard some students who were talking among themselves. What happened? Asked another student. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that Trash Evan challenged Mike for a duel next Friday. Of course, it's not true. How can that Trash, who is even afraid to enter a dungeon, can challenge Mike? But I heard some students were talking about it. And apparently some time ago when Mike tried to pick a fight with him, he even insulted Mike and his gang. Hey, look at this video. Suddenly one of the students showed a video to other students that was being viral in the Hunter Academy students chat group. Holy crap, who is this guy? The student who was talking about Evan's challenge a moment ago asked. He completely crushed Lucas with just a slap. Isn't this guy looks like Evan? Another student said after seeing the face of the guy who slapped Lucas. Don't joke around, although he looks like him, there is no way he is that guy. He looks more handsome and clearly he is at least C rank hunter, if not above. There is no way that Trash can reach C rank. Can't you guys see he attacked Lucas when he was not paying attention? It's clear that if Lucas was not careless, he would have easily dodged that attack. Who is this bastard who spread the video? Evan thought in annoyance because he knew he will not be able to attend the class peacefully. I just hope no one will come to bother me, Evan thought when he arrived near his classroom. Since the class was about to start, most of the students were already present. When Evan entered the classroom, students looked at him and were stunned to see a new student because most of the students didn't recognize Evan. "Isn't the same guy who slapped Lucas in the video? Why, he is in our class. He looks like that trash Evan, don't you think? He becomes more strong." James, who was also present in class, thought when he saw Evan. He changed once again. Valerie, who was also present in the class, raised an eyebrow after seeing Evan. She saw him some days ago when Mike was picking a fight with him and was surprised when she saw how he changed completely. Evan already expected this kind of reaction since he also knew his look changed completely after he got his Monarch's core, so he ignored them and went towards his seat at the back of the class where he usually sit. "Holy shit, that guy is really Evan." He sat at the same seat where he usually sat. Did he do plastic surgery or something? It's really annoying, Evan thought when he saw how all students were looking at him. Mike and his gang were also present in class and they were staring daggers at him like they just want to rip him apart. Evan ignored everything and started to browse the internet. After 5 minutes the professor finally came into class and Evan sighed in relief when students stopped looking at him. "Alright, stop talking," Professor Elena said after entering the class. Elena looked around 25 years old. She has long black hair, light green eyes, and she was wearing a knee-length skirt. She teaches students about the theory of monsters and the most of the things that they need to know while facing monsters. Elena looked around the class and when she saw Evan her eyes stopped on him for a moment, but she didn't say anything. "Today I will teach you about the weaknesses of different types of monsters. It's important to know about the weaknesses of the monsters while facing them because it gets easy to kill a monster if you know its weakness," Elena said and started the class. She touched the screen that was present in class and an image of a snow-white tiger with deep blue eyes appeared on the screen. As you all know, it's a frost tiger, one of the most common and at the same time dangerous monster that you can find in an icy environment. If you fight against it in an icy environment it will be very dangerous for you, but if you know its weakness you can defeat it more easily, Elena said after showing the picture. "Anyone knows how to deal with this monster properly?" Elena asked while looking at the students. Some students raised their hands. Evan was also among them since during these 2 years he can't take any practical exam because of his low strength. He basically memorized most of the theory about monsters. Elena looked around the class and pointed at a short-haired boy. When the boy saw Elena was pointing at him he stood up and started to tell about the weaknesses of the frost tiger. "I should ask about the practical exam after the class," and Evan thought with a bored look because he already knew most of the things that Elena was teaching. "Alright. That's it for today. Remember to revise what you learned today," Elena said after her class ended and left the class. Evan quickly stood up to go after Elena since he wanted to ask about the practical exam. Just as Evan stood up to go after Elena, someone came before him and said, "Oi, Trash, did you go through plastic surgery or something?" Evan looked at the person who stopped him and saw a 180 centimeters tall boy standing before him. "What do you want, Rio?" Evan asked while looking at the boy. Rio has brown spiky hair and his build is similar to Evan's. "What can a trash like you can give me? I am just curious what happened to you and why your look changed this much in just 1 week," Rio said while putting one of his hand on Evan's shoulder. "I don't think I need to tell you what happened to me," Evan said in an indifferent voice while removing Rio's hand from his shoulder. "And don't try to touch me again. I am sick of people who always try to grab my collar or touch me without any reason." Rio looked at Evan closely and seeing his indifferent expression before him he suddenly burst into laughter. "Looks like rumors are true. You really grow some backbone," Rio said while laughing. But he suddenly stopped laughing and said to Evan in a cold voice, "Although it's good to show courage you should k." Rio wasn't able to finish what he was saying when Evan grabbed him by the throat. After grabbing Rio's throat, Evan lifted him up from the ground and said, "I don't care what you want to say, so spare me your bullshit, and don't try to bother me anymore." Rio tried to free himself from Evan's clutches but found to his horror that no matter how much he tries he can't free himself from Evan's grasp. When Rio tried to free himself he felt like he is a kid who is trying to free himself from an adult. "If you got any problem with me you can also challenge me on Friday with that trash." But if you try to bother me again, I will make sure that you regret not listening to my advice." Evan clutched the throat of Rio with even more strength and his face turned purple because of the lack of oxygen. Tears started to come out from Rio's eyes and he tried to speak something, but because of how tightly Evan was holding his throat he wasn't able to say anything. "That's enough, you should let him go now." Valerie came near Evan and said to him after seeing Rio's condition. Evan also didn't want to waste his time anymore since he wanted to ask about the practical exam from Professor Elena, so he freed Rio. When Evan freed Rio, he fell to the floor of the academy while grasping for air. His face was full of horror and his whole body was shaking. After freeing Rio, Evan didn't even look at him and quickly left the classroom. "Is he really that weakling, Evan?" One of the students finally spoke when Evan left the classroom. "How the hell he become this strong in just a single week? Was that guy hiding his strength all along?" a student said while looking at Rio, who was still gasping for air. "Now I can't wait to see his fight against Mike on Friday," a student said, and everyone looked at Mike, who was sweating buckets while looking at the condition of Rio. "I hope no one will bother me from now on after seeing this," Evan thought while quickly moving towards the staff room to catch up with Professor Elena. Professor Elena. Since Evan didn't waste too much time with Rio, he was quickly able to catch up with Professor Elena. Elena looked back after hearing Evan's voice and saw him coming towards her with hurried steps. "Professor, I wanted to ask you something," Evan said after coming near Elena. "You want to know about the practical exam, right?" Elena said with a smile on her face. Evan was taken aback after hearing this and asked with a surprised expression, "How do you know this?" "Just after seeing you in class I understood that you somehow solved the problem of your physique, and now that you can improve your power just like other hunters, I can guess that you will be taking practical exams with other students," Elena said after seeing the surprised face of Evan. Hearing Elena, Evan nodded and said, "You are right, I also want to participate in the practical exam this time. Let's go to my office since it will take some time to explain everything to you. The practical exam this time is special," Elena said, and once again started walking towards her office. Evan was not surprised that Elena knew about his physique because most of the professors who taught Evan during his academy life know about his physique. In order to not participate in practical exams, students have to give a proper reason, and since Evan missed the practical exam each year, he had to tell about his physique to the professor each year. Evan already prepared a good story about how he solved the problem of his physique, so he was not afraid that someone else will find out about his Shadow Monarch physique. "Take a sit," Elena said to Evan after they enter her office. "Can you first tell me how you solved the problem of your physique?" Elena asked Evan after he sat down. "It happened last Sunday when I entered the Shadow Kingdom dungeon." Evan started to tell her a fake story that he created last night. Evan told her that he entered the Shadow Kingdom dungeon and used an invisibility potion to hunt some D-rank shadow monsters. Everything went according to his plan and he successfully killed 10 D-rank monsters before the effect of the invisibility potion ended and got 3 cores from those 10 monsters. When I absorbed those 3 shadow cores, I advanced from F rank to F+ rank and I felt my physique changed somehow after I advanced to F+ rank. Evan continues to tell Elena his fake story. "So after advancing F+ rank, when you tried to absorb cores once again, you found you can now absorb the cores just like everyone, right?" Elena asked after Evan told his fake story. "Yes," Evan said while praying inwardly that Elena will believe in his fake story. Chapter 40 Tournament Between Academies, Part 2. What the hell you were thinking when you enter a D-rank dungeon alone? Elena asked Evan while glaring at him. "I was thinking about getting cores," Evan said while laughing nervously. "You want me to beat you up?" Elena said while smacking the head of Evan. It's been 10 minutes since Evan finished telling his fake story and Elena is lecturing him for entering a D-rank dungeon alone while he was just an F-rank hunter. "I was just joking and I entered the dungeon because I had no other choice. I can't always be stuck at F rank," Evan said while rubbing his head. "I know what you are talking about, but still, didn't I tell you before, you can become a theory professor in the academy even if you are not a high-rank hunter? With your knowledge of beasts it would have been very easy for you to become a professor here," Elena said. I know, but I did not want to become a professor. That's why I entered the dungeon, Evan said while shaking his head, because he never wanted to become a professor. Forget it. I am glad you didn't die there and even solved the problem of your physique, Elena said after hearing Evan. Actually, I almost died there, Evan said in his mind, remembering how that bat almost killed him. The practical exam will be held next month. I can't tell you details about the exam because the staff is still discussing what kind of test we should give you guys, but one thing is for sure, you will have to work in a team to clear this exam. Since this is your last year and after graduation, you will become an official hunter. You will have to work with other hunters occasionally, so you can think of it as a training for working in a team, Elena said, and looked at Evan, whose eyes were twitching after hearing the word team. Elena ignored him and continued, don't worry too much, there will only be one person in your team and you don't have to find your teammate by yourself because the teams will be created randomly by the lucky draw. After saying this, Elena looked at Evan and said, I know it will be your first time working with someone, but try your best to perform good because the All Hunter Academy tournament will be held in 4 months and the result of your exam will greatly affect who will represent the Astrate Academy in the tournament. I completely forget about the tournament, Evan said when he heard Elena. The All Hunter Academy tournament is the competition between the 6 major hunter academies. 6 major hunter academies including Astrate Hunter Academy will take part in this tournament. This tournament is held every year and the students of different academies will compete against each other. Only the students who are in their final year will take part in this competition, and since this is Evan's last year, he also has a chance to take part in this tournament. The winner of the tournament will receive excellent rewards, and if Evan remembered correctly, last year Astrate Academy came in 3rd place in this tournament. Only 5 students from each academy can take part in this tournament, and since you just recovered, it will be hard for you to compete for a position, but try your best, Elena said to Evan. Evan nodded and asked, do you know why the sword class was cancelled today? While telling his fake story, Evan received a message that there will be no sword classes for the time being. Although he was planning to stop going to sword classes, he was still curious why the class was suddenly cancelled. There have been some dungeon outbreaks recently and Professor Robert is currently working with hunters to surpass these dungeon outbreaks, so I don't think there will be sword classes for the time being. Also, don't go into dungeons for some time because it's strange that many dungeon outbreaks happen at the same time, Elena said to Evan in a serious voice. Alright, I will keep that in mind, Evan said and stood up. Thanks for telling me about the exam and tournament. Don't worry about it, just do your best in the upcoming exam. I will, Evan said and left the office. Now that I don't have anything else to do, I should go and sell everything that I got from my last mission, Evan mumbled and left the academy. Evan took a taxi and went towards the city plaza where he can sell most of the things at a reasonable price. I will finally become rich after working like a fool for all those years, Evan thought while dreaming about the money he will receive after selling everything. I know about the price of most of the things, but I don't know how much I will get for that barrier crystal and black device since those two are not new. Soon Evan reached at City Plaza. He paid the taxi bill and went inside the building of the City Plaza. Now where should I go? I have so many different kinds of things that I want to sell, Evan mumbled after coming inside the building. Evan wants to sell cores, a storage ring, a crystal barrier, a black device, and even the corpse of the black ogre that he stored inside his shadow using his skill. Evan was most surprised by the fact that time stopped for the things that he store inside his shadow. This was great news for Evan since he can store the corpses of monsters for a long time after killing them. Suddenly Evan saw a guy in a staff dress coming towards him, but just by looking at the face of the man, Evan was sure that this guy is a villain.